Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me pele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brada me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama,
Ayo me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
tita me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Send I Mwadi be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kozai Mudzimo Mukuru. Give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Once I give thanks, one and all, for the people that reach. You know what I'm saying? This week, for another session of ZIVANAYI. You know what I mean? You don't know, say, First of all, let me explain. ZIVANAYI is a word spoken in the Shona language, which is mostly spoken in Zimbabwe, which means let us get to know, particularly relating to getting to know each other, as human beings, as Africans, as Black people. So, we're there, we're there. And this is just our open house general talk show currently on gotkushTV that we will be doing for the foreseeable future, just so we create a space to interact with the audience whilst we are preparing, producing new content, new shows, and so on and so forth. For those who may not be aware, my name is ShakaRa, and I'll be your host for this evening. And the long and short of it is that you come through, me open up the discussion, with a few talking points of things that I have been, meditating on over the past week, and then you are invited to come and either speak on the things that I've raised or raise your own topics, and we have some interesting conversations. And the last few shows have been very, very interesting. So I wasn't here last week, and I'm going to explain why in a second, but before I do that, let me just make sure that I let the people them know. So if you want to support gotkushTV, you can do so via our Patreon, make a one-off or a monthly contribution. It's entirely up to you. As it stands right about now, you're doing it for the love, because there are no perks associated with the Patreon at the moment. There will be once we begin to release the new shows and so on and so forth. We'll have perks associated, and those of us, you who are already patrons up until that point will receive some extra perks, for being, loyal supporters of gotkushTV over a period of time. We appreciate you all. So feel free to hit up the link in the description if you would like to support gotkushTV, help us up the production quality, help us to, get new equipment as and where necessary, and so on and so forth. All offerings are gratefully received, And I should also let you know that there is a link here. So oftentimes when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, there are oftentimes people don't get the notifications when we go live, are them kind of things there. So we have created a Telegram group, that only we posting as admin of gotkushTV, just to get so you get your notifications straight, you know what I'm saying? So if you want to join, you can also hit the link in the description. And I realized that I've neglected to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post that link in the chat right about now, so only can see it, and you can join our Telegram channel. Now there is another group that is attached to that Telegram group that if conversation for go on kind of the conversation in that the group there, but there is no requirement to do so. If you just want to make sure that you get your good gotkushTV information, then you can join this Telegram group right so, and I'm going to post that channel in the chat right now. Bigging up everybody wherever you're watching. This is a gotkushTV show, so if you're watching on any of my personal channels, click the link in the description to come through and watch live on gotkushTV, because only there will you be able to find the link to join the panel live. So once again, click the link in the description that says watch live on gotkushTV in order to come and watch through gotkushTV, where you will find the link to join the panel live. And we have some people who join the panel already, so big up on yourself, and we'll soon come to Uno in a piece. All right, okay. As we move, we're just gonna big up a chat. Big up to Mr. IC3. Big up our brother Set Imhotep over there in Trinidad. Heden, big up yourself same way. Jesse Randelhoff is asking what's this about. Well, this is a show, a talk show, all right, a discussion forum, you know what I'm saying, discussing issues of pertinence to the global African diaspora. And my name is ShakaRa, as I said before, and I'm an African who lives in the UK. And so we're going to be discussing some issues that are relevant to Africans living in the UK this evening, and worldwide, for that matter. All right. So those are those who have chosen, of the thousands of you who are currently viewing, those are those who have chosen to type in the chat as it stands right about now. Okay, so me going at some things here where they're upon Fimi mind, and we're gonna stay upon. In fact, sorry, first of all, let me explain why I was not here last week. The reason is very simple. Wu-Tang Clan and Nas were in town. Wu-Tang Clan and Nas were in town, and I dutifully purchased my ticket and went to go see the brethren them, and big up my brother, my little brother Ike, because we went together. And it's funny, years ago, must have been around 2004, 2005 ish, because I'm sure it was around the time when Nas released the album Street's Disciple. I took my little bro to go see Nas, and Nas was on the stage for about 15-20 minutes before somebody was shot in a Brixton Academy, which was later referred to as Brixton O2 before being shut down recently because of a incident that took place at a recent show a few months ago. But basically that got cut short. So it's interesting that me and him went the other day to see Wu-Tang and Nas together for the New York State of Mind tour. I want to say big up. It was a very, very good concert. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang definitely brought that Wu-Tang energy. They had a band along with some, a DJ, and it worked well. They definitely brought a good performance. RZA is the ABBA, he's a G, and he definitely, you could see, he properly coordinated that particular stage show. You could tell that, and I have a lot of respect for that man as an artist, but that's another subject for another time. Wu-Tang were good, but you see this guy called Nas, my lord, I don't know, man. Great MC. And Nas performed songs from his first album to his very last day. His first album was released in 93, 94. And his last album was released in December last year. All right. And so, madness. November last year, I do believe. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, the guy is just excellent artist, you know what I'm saying? And man, so we had a good time down there at the Nas Wu-Tang tour, you know what I'm saying? So we give thanks for that energy. But couldn't be in two places at once, kings and queens. So we just have to take in the vibration of Nas and Wu-Tang. So that will happen every now and then, you know what I'm saying? I do believe Kestaban is coming over in the month of Messiah, August, but I don't think that's on a Tuesday evening, so we should still be here in the building, for ZIVANAYI for that one. All right. So let me get into what my talking points. So let me start my mic out very quickly because it won't situate itself proper. Okay. All right. So the first thing is that if you're linked to my social media, you will notice that I spoke about this issue of African people in the UK accepting OBEs, and MBEs. And for those who may not be aware, the OBE stands for Order of British Empire, and MBE stands for Member of British Empire. And basically, the British monarchy has an honor system where they award citizens for contribution, to the nation, and so on and so forth. All right, and it's always been a question as to whether we as African people living in the UK should in fact accept these awards and accept these honors. And many have not. The most prominent that comes to mind is the well-known poet Benjamin Zephaniah, but there have been others. For example, brother John ZD, for his contributions, was nominated for his contributions to hip-hop theater and dance over here in the UK, and he turned it down and also wrote a whole play on the subject matter. And so recently, though, however, like there's been a new, I think it happens every year, so there's a, the monarch of the country has an honors list and you're invited to accept the honor, you know what I'm saying, or not. And I don't remember all of the names off the top of my head, of the Africans, or people of African Caribbean extraction who were nominated, but many of them accepted. Many of them accepted, and I believe, I didn't see this myself, but I heard that Sister Janet Kay, the Queen of Lovers Rock, was nominated, accepted, and that she was actually being slated in certain places over social media because she accepted. All right, and we're not going to engage in none of that today. As me saying on my video, we're not condemn we're brethren and sisters, then we accept the thing. What we are going to question, whether we should be accepting these things as African people. Another person who was recently nominated was Ian Wright. I'm surprised that took so long, to be honest with you, but there's no surprise around the fact that Ian Wright accepted. Another sister who was nominated was Karen Wheeler. Karen Wheeler, famous, one of the lead singers of and the most prominent lead singer of the group Soul to Soul, whose most well-known hit is Back to Life, Back to Reality. Legendary in the game. You know what I'm saying? We can't say nothing more than just she's legendary. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Karen Wheeler in the person. And when I met Karen Wheeler, because I'm a spoken word artist, and Karen Wheeler looked at me and said, "Yeah, man, you're excellent. I know who you are. We need to drop down to writing. We need to drop down and fee and all them things there." Because Karen Wheeler knew who I was, you know what I mean? So we but because of the in fact, and I've met Janet Kay also a few times actually. The first time I remember meeting Janet Kay, I was 6 years old, and I was on the set for a video for another Lovers Rock artist by the name of Lyde Brown. Lyde Brown. I was 6 years old. He had a video called Mother's Prayer. I think his mother passed away from cancer or something like that, and he wanted to do a song that was raising money for charities that were doing cancer research or something like that. And so there was a number of children. The song was dedicated to children, and so I was one of the children, me and my brother, my younger brother Simba, while the children, some of the children in the video, and Janet Kay was there. Janet Kay had a tall crown on her head, and 6-year-old me fell in love immediately. Janet Kay just looked so regal and so beautiful and all them things there, and so I think that a few years ago, I remember Miss Dynamite, another legendary artist in the UK, accepted. She wrote a whole article in the Guardian, I believe, explaining why she accepted, and the reason why she accepted is the reason why she wrote the article is because Miss Dynamite is known to be a conscious artist. She's got a lot of messaging in her music, and also her brother, who's also an artist, Akala, is also known for bringing a lot of geopolitical messaging and in their music. And so I think that she was aware of the fact that most people would not expect a Miss Dynamite to accept an honor with the title British Empire in it. And I think the same can be said for people like Janet Kay and Karen Wheeler, you know what I'm saying? Godfather of Grime, Wiley accepted his a few years ago and then got himself in trouble because him talked about certain people who shall remain nameless. And so I don't know how long him got all on that. But the point is that, this thing is about being a member of and a contributor to the order of the British Empire. Now, is it that we as Africans in the UK have come so far in our sojourn that we can feel comfortable to assimilate into the order of British Empire and feel no contradiction? I don't feel like we've got that far. I feel like even the recent ways in which the British society is trying to embrace what they call the Windrush generation, whilst at the same time creating a hostile environment for many of those who were part of that and the children who are part of that Windrush generation, and the hostile environment being their own governmental terminology. I think we have to, I don't think we honor ourselves and the best of our ancestors when we feel honored by such a dishonorable institution like the British monarchy and a dishonorable institution like the British Empire. Yeah, I don't feel that the artistic expression and the brilliance and the community work of our people is best honored in the name of the British Empire. And so I'm asking the question, what is it about these honors that would see us overlook the very name on the honor itself? To overlook what that name represents, what that institution represents, yeah, what it has done and continues to do to our people all over the world. Why? What is it, yeah, about these honors whereby we feel comfortable enough to overlook those factors because they are very real in order to accept the honor itself? Yeah, I'm not gonna leave that right there, so and anybody can feel free to bring me back to it if you want to come on the panel or even ask a question in the chat and we'll deal with that. Yeah, but I want to move on to my next talking point, yeah, which is regarding the issue of stop and search. Yeah, now to give a little bit of a backdrop into this one, the Home Secretary, yeah, who is a member of the cabinet, yeah, in the British government, close to the Prime Minister, Suella Braverman is her name, a woman of Indian descent, recently put out a statement that she wrote, yeah, to all of the, I believe, 48 police bodies in the country, saying to them that them need to expand stop and search, yeah, in this country, okay? And in the expansion of stop and search, they should not feel a way about the fact that there is a history of stop and search, yeah? And that history is well known to disproportionately affect people of African heritage, as well as other so-called minorities, yeah, or global majority peoples, as we prefer to say, in this country. Okay, as it stands right about now, Black people are 4 times more likely to be stopped and searched, yeah. And so because of the fact that there's a discriminatory history behind stop and search, obviously, when the Home Secretary says, well, yeah, we need to expand the stop and search, it's considered to be a controversial statement, all right? And so there was a discussion, a popular talk show, yeah, called Jeremy Vine, yeah, and the talk show featured the former head of the Black Police Association, Leroy Logan, yeah, and I want to play piece of the discussion, yeah, and we can have some conversation around that. All right. So the conversation features Jeremy Vine, I do believe, Leroy Logan, and another sister by the name of Lynn May. Yeah, and Lynn May, for those who may not be aware, is a rising star within what I refer to as the Black conservative industrial complex. Yeah, and she's I believe has a degree in law. I think she also has a property portfolio, but mostly what she's known for is being a talking head, and I don't say that disparagingly, on different shows, social media, as well as mainstream television, as well as independent media in the UK. Mostly, as far as the independent media is concerned, catering for or targeted at the Black community. Okay. And so she's very well known for her conservative viewpoints, yeah, and you know, challenging the Black community, yeah, or what might be considered dominant opinions, yeah, within the Black community. And so you're gonna get a sense of that when you watch this video. And I'm gonna watch the video and pause at different points, yeah, to have some conversation. All right. So all on there, let me stop sharing once again, because I want to make sure I share the sound. Yeah, because every time I hear the sound. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get into this now. Yeah. So Leroy Logan, once again, he's a retired police officer, former head of the Black Police Association. Yeah. So listen to this very carefully.
There's no correlation between stop and search and knife crime. A lot of people say, yeah, it is. But it isn't. Even the Home Office Research Unit shows that. And the NPCC, National Police Chief Council, their racial action plan actually states that's the case. So,
all right. So let's bear this in mind. Yeah. The brethren I say, yeah, the former Babylon. Yes. This is retired Babylon I speak now. Yeah. There is no correlation between knife crime and stop and search. What that means, yeah, is that when you look upon the issue of knife crime, and then you look upon the issue of stop and search, yeah, there is no correlation between rates of knife crime and rates of stop and search. In other words, an increase in stop and search is not known over decades of observation and record keeping to decrease the levels of knife crime. Not a nogosa. There is no correlation by government statistics, by bodies that have observed the police, by the police own fact. There is no correlation between stop and search and knife crime. Okay? All right. So let's emphasize that point there. All right. Let's go forward.
This, again, is political pressure putting on chief constables to, with a political outcome. Quite clearly, the Tory government is under a cosh, and it needs something to show they're doing something on knife crime. And then your other speaker was talking about, well, it's mainly Black people who are involved in these sort of offences. Well, if you go in West Midlands, you go in Cleveland, you go in Glasgow, it's mainly white people. And you don't see the disproportionality on stop and search with them, but you do see it in London.
Right. So this is the next point now, yeah. So London, of all the Black people in the UK, half of us live in London, yeah. And the disproportionality, yeah, and the rise in stop and search is very much a London specific issue, yet London is not the most violent area of the UK. Yeah, I believe as far as cities is concerned, London is probably 4th or 5th on the list. And as far as areas are concerned, it's that there are so many areas in the UK that are more violent, yeah, and have more violent crime than London does, than many areas in London. Yet, yeah, the high intensive focus on stop and search, Leroy Logan is saying, is not replicated in these other areas of the country. Yeah, not a Nagosa. Okay, all right. So that's the next point. Yeah,
because London, where I served for 30 years, has got a default for stop and search that only reveals less than 5% of stop and searches actually come up with weapons.
Less than 5% of stop and searches actually come up with the weapons. Now, bear in mind, the issue at hand right now is stop and search, yeah, based upon the statement of the Home Secretary, okay, the highest order within the country that is directly dealing with, yeah, issues of crime is the Home Secretary. All right, okay, all right. So less than 5% of stop and searches actually find weapons upon the people them where them are search. Okay, all right.
Or any other prohibited article. So to say there's a correlation between...
Excuse me, not just weapons, any other prohibited article that include drugs, yeah, or anything else. We're not for have on your person. Okay, all right.
Stop and search, knife crime and saving lives, there is no evidence. And so
that point is very important, yeah, because the talking point that Suella Braverman put out there was that the reason why stop and search is necessary because it saves lives. And against the argument that stop and search is known to disproportionately affect the black community, her argument was preemptive strike, that black young men disproportionately die at the hands of knife crime, which is, as far as I'm aware, true. So her argument is that in order to save the lives of young black men, we need to increase stop and search. But the reality is there is no evidence to suggest that the increase in stop and search is saving the lives of black men. All right? Okay. Well, I'll make that very, very clear. Okay? All right.
So this is all political will and misguided will at that.
So as far as political will is concerned, yeah, by the way, Suella Braverman is under a lot of heat at the moment, particularly for her immigration policies and trying to get through this policy whereby so-called illegal immigrants to the UK get shipped off to Rwanda, and a whole range of policies that she's trying to institute on the immigration front. Yeah, very, very hostile, yeah, policies. All right. And so in my humble estimation, there is part of this statement was designed to create another headline that would detract from a lot of the heat that she's facing in other areas of her political maneuvering. Okay, that's just my personal speculation, and I could be completely wrong. It's a speculation, you know what I'm saying? But what Leroy Logan is saying is that because of the fact that there is no evidence of the fact that stop and search has any impact upon these things, the idea to put this as a policy is simply political maneuvering. Yeah, it's not geared towards solving the problem in any way, shape, or form. And we're going to come back to that in a second. All right? Okay.
Okay, but the issue I find when speaking to many people.
So the sister now I speak right now is Lynn May, yeah, who I referred to earlier. Now listen to what Lynn May has to say.
In the community and youth leaders, what is the alternative? We can all agree that it doesn't have the best of impact, but and you said when you look at the Midlands, when you look at even Scotland, there's issues with knife crime, and I'm not disputing that, but it's a huge difference in statistic when we look at black people.
So that, remember, the issue is stop and search. Yeah, this is what the issue is. Okay, this is what the issue is. Yeah, this is the way she goes.
Making up 13% of Londoners, but when we're looking at the victims, the murder victims, foreigners, but when we're looking for making up huge difference in statistic, when we look at black people making up 13% of Londoners, but when we're looking at the victims, the murder victims, 45%. Why is that? When we're looking at the perpetrators with regards to murder from knife crime, it's 61% versus 13% of people that make up that demographic. So why do you think that is? And what can we do as opposed to stop and search?
Well, how long have you got? I know I've only got a couple of minutes, so let me just break it down for you.
All right, so bear this in mind, yeah. The issue is stop and search. Now, this is why I say to you about the Black Conservative Industrial Complex, yeah, and the regurgitation of talking points, all right, popular talking points, yeah, because this is the #1 talking point from these white folks, yeah, who run a lot of these think tanks and media organizations. What is the alternative? Yeah, that's the question. The inference being, but we have to do something, yeah, to solve this problem, because solving the problem is what they're really concerned about, right? That's what they're really concerned about, solving the problem, yeah? So we must do something, yeah? So if not stop and search, yeah, what are we going to do? I mean, there's an entire deficit of suggestions and methodologies and policies and programs that we can use, yeah, to address these issues. So we must use stop and search. This is the inference, yeah, behind that line of questioning, okay? And bear in mind that it is proven over decades that stop and search does not work. So whatever we're going to do, the evidence suggests no increase in stop and search, right? That's what the evidence is suggesting, or at least the evidence is suggesting stop and search is not going to solve the problem, okay? So asking what are we going to do in relation to stop and search, or as though we must now consider stop and search because we don't have another option, which we do, and we're gonna get to that in a second, yeah, it's totally ridiculous. Yeah, why? What is the purpose of that line of reasoning? Then now, the issue about black people. Yeah, and I've already stated that of the most violent areas in the UK, London is not one of them. Okay. In fact, I'm going to come back to the issue of black people, because this seems to be a very interesting talking point. Let's finish the video, then we come back to that.
The issue of knife crime has been with us for 20 odd years. We had a massive impact on it when...
Key point here. The issue of knife crime has been with us for 20 odd years, all right? Black people have been in this country in significant numbers since the 1940s and 50s, yeah? There has never been a point in the entire history, post so-called Windrush, of black people in this country whereby we have not been disproportionately stopped and searched by the police. The reason for this has not been, and nobody could argue, that we were disproportionately involved in perpetrating violent crime against each other or anybody else. Yeah? So the idea that increased stop and search exists because of the fact that black people, black young men in particular, are disproportionately committing these crimes is a false one. Because, oh, yeah, got justified that in the 1980s, 70s, and 60s. When similar statistics existed in terms of disproportionate harassment by the police. And that me want to know. Yeah? All right, let's go forward.
And when I was at Hackney, like other superintendents, we had safer neighbourhood teams. We had 1 sergeant, 2 constables, 3 police crime support officers, police community support officers even. And they were the interface on their wards, interfacing with the young people. So even if they were getting stopped and searched by other officers, they identified with those citizens-focused community cops, handpicked to interface, build bridges. And so we were able to have more proactivity, stopping the people who are carrying the knives and the guns and whatever, or even where the next feud is going to be. Because that's the other thing at the moment. Police are just on firefighting patrol. They're just reacting from one incident to another. And you need to have community cops who know what's going on. And it enhances the stop and search, because people will give you more intelligence if they're confident and rely on you, and you make them feel safe and secure. So they will tell you where all these things are going to happen next. So being more proactive is a key thing. Plus, also you work with the charity sector. I worked with all the charity sectors to be part of my violent action plan and my community engagement plan. I'm still doing that now through a charity I set up 21 years ago, Voyage Youth in Hackney. So I know the importance of having an integrated plan, knowing what the outcomes are, and ensuring you're going into the cause of the crime. You can be tough on crime and criminals, but you also have to be clear on how you prevent the causes of it through intervention and prevention processes. Okay. That has been decimated by this government over the last 13 years.
Leroy, thank you so much for giving us.
We're gonna get into some of those things here, and I'm realizing we're getting on for time, so I'm not gonna talk too much right now. Let me get on to something else here. So Lynn May, right, posted a clip of this interview on her Instagram, yeah. And what I'm gonna share right now is, you've seen the conversation. There's nothing in the conversation that you just watched that she didn't share, and there's nothing more on what she shared that is not in this conversation that you just watched here. What I'm particularly interested in is the caption, yeah, the caption we should have right here. So right, so let's take in the caption. Yeah, the caption says, facts don't care about your feelings. I don't think my question was answered regarding knife crime. If not stop and search, then what? Which I think he did answer. Whether you agree with the answer or not, he did answer it. One, he talked about reorganizing and reconstituting the police efforts to more community-based policing and building relationships with the community than strictly just law enforcement, draconian militarization, and so on and so forth. The other thing that he said was investing more in the charity sector. Now, full disclosure, I am a freelance youth worker, and Voyage, which he mentioned, is a charity that I have done work on behalf of. Yes, I have worked for that charity. Yeah, in terms of women I said no, working with young people in Hackney. Yeah, so that work was done through Voyage. Okay, so I'm familiar with Voyage. Yes, and the work that Voyage does. He also spoke about that. Yeah, there's more to it, but he's basically saying that a lot of the resources for those things have been decimated, yeah, by cuts, yeah, over the last 13 years, in particular, from the government. Okay, so you might not agree, and some of these things that he said I don't necessarily agree with, right? But he did give an answer. Okay, all right. So, but then she goes on to say, why do black people make up 30% of London? Now, just remember, she threw these statistics out there, but the question that she asked is, yeah, what is the other option? Okay, so you notice that the statistics don't necessarily relate to the actual question. What are we going to do? Okay, the statistics are put out there for the narrative, yeah, but the question stands independently of the statistics. It has no relationship, yeah, to the statistics themselves, because the issue of stop and search is one, as far as the Home Secretary is talking about, is not London alone she talk about, and the whole country. And it's not black people alone she talk about, it's everybody. All right? We can have a conversation about black people, yeah? And that we do around Yassa. But if we're talking about British politics, that is not what we're discussing, at least on the face of it. Yeah? Because Suella Rahman did the same thing, focus on the black people there. All right. So why do black people make up 30% of London, but account for 45% of London's knife murder victims, 61% of knife murder perpetrators, and 53% of knife crime perpetrators? Yeah. Now I need to see the sources for these statistics. I really would, because I'm not gonna deny that they're true. I'm also not going to affirm that they're true. I'm just saying that I want to see the sources for those statistics. I've not seen those sources. Yeah. Don't want to hear. But what about Glasgow poverty issues? Yeah. So we're asking now. Remember the question that she asked at the end. What is the cause? Yeah. But in answering the cause, you don't want to hear about poverty. Okay. All right. Cool. And you don't want to hear about Glasgow, because Glasgow is a majority white city whereby we're going to come back to Glasgow in a second, whereby violence and violent crime and knife crime in particular has been historically high. Yes, and far more than London. Okay, so the idea now is that we're gonna particularize this conversation to black people. Okay, and I wouldn't mind, yeah, because I'm a man that particularizes conversation to black people. Except that people tend to be picky and choosy about when and where we can and what conversations we can particularize to black people. Yeah. And because I don't want to talk too much, I'm going to leave that one there. All right. Then she says, then there are those who are race activists from the community. Yeah. All right. Those who are race activists from the community whose mouths are wide open on other topics but struggle with accountability on this topic. Zero desire to push cultural changes, yes, from within. Again, these are dog whistles, yeah, to the conservative industry, yeah, the conservative complex, yeah, that is responsible for propping up individuals from the black community that are going to reinforce talking points. Cultural changes is intended by this group, by the people that, not Lin May now, by the people that construct the argument that Lin May is speaking at the moment, to pathologize the black community, yeah, to deflect from socio-political issues and particularize the issue as being a problem with the black community itself and its inability to take care of its children, to get married, for example, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that is the idea behind when you see cultural, especially in block capitals, yeah, from within. It's everybody's fault but our own. The system, the government, racism. There are many poor people who do not carry knives as long as their legs or kill people. All I constantly hear are excuses, hardly any vim as a collective to hold them to account and the culture they represent. Now, the interesting thing about this is that none of this has anything to do with the subject. Yeah, the subject is stop and search. That is the subject. Not to say that the issues are not relevant. Not to say that black people don't need to take responsibility for the crime that exists in our community and addressing it. Not to say that if these statistics are true, that we don't need for all on upon ourselves and say, well, it's war go on with we. Yeah, if this is true, we need to do that. Certainly. But none of this has anything to do with the issue of stop and search. You know why? Because if it is indeed true that we make up 30% of London, but are in fact 45% of those murdered by knives, and 61% of those perpetrating the murders, and 53% of knife crime perpetrators in general, stop and search now go solve none of them problem there. That is the point. Yeah? How does stop and search address any of them thing there? And how does increased levels of stop and search address the black community taking accountability for itself and with culture and with pathological culture? How? I need this to be explained to me. Yes? What does any of this have to do with the issue of stop and search? Nothing at all. Yeah? But within the media landscape, what happens is people have to engage in performative conversation as though they are interested in solving a problem when they are actually not, as a means for shielding the real agenda, which is creating a political climate to push through certain policies. So in order to justify higher levels of stop and search, even though it is proven to be ineffective, you have to criminalize the black community and create the impression that the only way to address this issue is to increase the policing of the black community. Whether it is effective or not, the policy must be put in place, and the policy can only be put in place with stability if it has the endorsement of a significant amount of the population of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. I'm going to say one more thing, then we're going to open up the line. The reality is, when them are asked the question, Gambia and Lin me know, when these media outlets put these conversations on the table, notice what them discuss and what them not discuss. Because when them are asked, well, what do we do? Them well I know, you know. Yeah, I'm going to show you to them well I know. All right, I'm going to show you to them well I know. Yeah. I'm gonna read from an article that was published by The Guardian some time ago, entitled "How Scotland Reduced Knife Crime Deaths Among Young People." Subheading: Treating knife crime as a health issue has led to a dramatic drop in stabbings. Of the 35 deaths of young people in Britain this year, and the year in question is 2017, none were in Scotland. All right, so listen to this now. I'm gonna scroll down. We're not gonna read the whole thing. Yeah. 1 second. Let me see where we are gonna go. All right, so just getting straight to the point. Yeah, the Scottish approach was quite conventional at first. Quote, "The police played a central role in the beginning," explains Christine Goodall, who, along with 2 other surgeons, founded Medics Against Violence in 2008, a campaign group which works with health professionals, law enforcement, social services, and other bodies to thwart violent behavior. They campaigned, this is Goodall speaking again, really hard to get the legislation around knife crime changed so people would be more likely to get a mandatory sentence. There was also, at the outset, a lot of stop and search, unquote. Yeah, listen carefully. The average sentence for carrying a knife in Scotland has tripled from 4 months in 2005, 2006 to an average of 13 months from 2014 to 2015. The issues, says Goodall, were concentrated in certain areas, particularly around Glasgow. Yeah. So when them say, when I want to hear about Glasgow, this is part of the reason why. Tune in. Using intelligence from police operations, the VRU, and I forget what that stands for, but I'll come back to it in a second, identify those people most likely to offend and ask them to voluntarily attend the sheriff's court. They didn't have to come, but they were encouraged to by police, teachers, and social workers, and a lot of them did come, says Goodall. The police had mapped all the gangs, and when people got there, they saw their own pictures up in the court. The session started off with a warning. "We know who you are, and if you carry on with this lifestyle, we're going to come down on you really hard. We're going to arrest you, and we will arrest the rest of the gang. You will be going to prison if this carries on." But at that point, the intervention at court took a more creative and holistic approach. We spoke about the injuries we see as a result of the violence. This is doctors talking to them now, yeah, of the violence, and had a mum talk about her losing her son. That really hit home, explains Goodall. Finally, they were offered a way out. There was help with housing, relocation, employment, and training. They were given a number to call if they wanted to take the offer up. Huge numbers of them did so, were put into the program, and are no longer in the gang lifestyle. The decision to treat knife crime as a public health issue rather than simply a police matter. Now, simply a police matter. That doesn't mean that they didn't treat it as a police matter. They're saying that they treated it as a public health issue as well as a police matter. Appears to have underpinned both the direction and support. The fact that the initiative is publicly funded means strategies can be coordinated coherently and organizations can concentrate on the task at hand rather than constantly looking for money to fund the next project. That makes a big difference, says Goodall. The problem, this is Goodall again, for charities, the same charities that Leroy Logan was speaking about, is that they have to compete for short-term funding, she says. So we're able to take a more coordinated approach with a more stable support. And as somebody who works in this sector, I can say that that is definitely true. Funding for youth services can often be very, very difficult to come by and takes up a lot of the energy of the institution. Half the work sometimes, yeah, is just trying to find funding to put on a project. Yeah. All right. And that has been exacerbated in the last decade because of the severe cuts to public spending in the UK. This is the issue that we have. Yeah. I'm gonna read these next two paragraphs and then we're gonna stop here. Because even in this situation, listen to this carefully. Susan McVie, professor of quantitative criminology at the University of Edinburgh, points out that the police, working alone, have a limited capacity to prevent knife crime. Fewer than 2% of stops and searches in Scotland resulted in the recovery of a knife, she says. It's hard to profile kids who carry weapons because a lot of those who carry a weapon aren't the ones who you would expect. They might be kids from middle-class backgrounds who feel frightened, isolated, and threatened in social situations. So even in a situation whereby they're trying other means and strategies, stop and search itself only produce a weapon 2% of the time. So why are we having a conversation about black pathology in relation to, and oh, you know, I just realized that everything that I was reading a minute ago wasn't showing on the screen, was it? Sure. I thought I pressed the share button. I apologize, kings and queens. Just so you know, say me nah lie, I don't lie me I tell. Yeah, let's just do this quickly. All right, I'm pressing everything where I'm supposed to press. Yeah. So this is what I literally just read a minute ago. You can find the article at The Guardian, and it's called How Scotland Reduced Knife Crime Deaths Among Young People. Yeah? Okay. That's what I want to know. All right? All right. Now, the final thing I'm going to say is this. I'm going to bring through the brothers who are currently in the background. Yeah, brothers and sisters, the link to join the panel is at the top of the chat. You can join the panel right about now. Yeah, you can either feed into the things that I've mentioned, or you can ask questions, or you can share your opinions, or even raise a whole new topic. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to say this to conclude. As somebody who works in this sector, I can name off the top of my head about 50 black men, and I'm focusing on black men who work with young people, who do work like mentoring and what's the word? Life goal planning and gang intervention. Yes, men who literally work on creating treaties and resolving beef between man them that live on this estate versus man them on that estate. I could name about 50 off the top of my head right now, not including the black woman them women know, not including all of the other people that the 50 brothers that I can probably name. No. That are doing this work always under-resourced, and therefore not having the impact that they could have if they were better resourced, but able to prove and demonstrate results in this area. Me can name about 50 man myself. You're not going to hear that in them conversation. You're not going to hear about them man there and the institutions that they work for. You're not going to hear about the Social Solutions Institute. You're not going to hear about Manhood Academy Global. You're not going to hear about Origin Rites of Passage. You're not going to hear about Rope in North London. You're not going to hear about Amenwar Consultancy. Yeah? Whilst they ask questions like, what else are we going to do? Because what the example of Glasgow shows, and there are no example is perfect, is that other means of addressing these issues work. And if you identify that there are people in the black community who are trying to address these issues, it does two things. One, it makes a lie of this perpetual pathologization of the black community, this argument about Why we're not talking about taking responsibility and solving the problem and the rare area. If you're able to identify community organizations that are under-resourced, man are working free often, who are doing this work out of the love of their heart for their people and their community, it makes a lie of that nonsense argument. So we can't bring them man to the forefront. We've had a recent even examples, actually. A couple of them did reach, I think, Good Morning Britain, where our Bridget was going around, yeah, collecting knife off for the man them. Yeah. Them now go talk about respect fire bingy and forever family. And if you did watch that document, that little something series that they put on couple years ago, maybe last year, where they had the people in our house, the black people in our house, and they were talking. Lin May was on it, Brother Kende Andrews was on it, and a few others, and then they go and talk to Respect Fire Bingy. So we know, so them know about Respect Fire Bingy. Yeah, these are people that have actively gone out into the community to address these issues. Yeah, so it makes a lie of that argument. You can't bring them argument to again. That's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is that it puts the establishment and these talking heads and these think tanks in a position whereby they have to put forward and suggest policies that empower those groups who are already solving the problem, who are already can demonstrate results in addressing these issues. It means that instead of government money going towards increasing the policing of black neighborhoods, spend some of that money where you get Babylon to these institutions that the black community has set up for itself. To solve these problems. Them no want to engage in that conversation there. Yeah. And that's why you know I go see ShakaRa on none of them platform. Because me go ask them question there. Me want to know what you know about them people here. And if you don't know about them people here, stop talk. And that me I say. And that's it. All right. I've spoken for way longer than I normally do, but I'm sure you can appreciate why. I'm gonna go in order of who joined the panel first. My brother in Trinidad, Setem Imhotep. Greet my brother.
Greetings, peace.
How you doing?
All right, I'm well actually. The other day was, well, I want to start off by saying Happy Father's Day to everybody who's celebrating. You know, the other day was Father's Day. We had well, the American brothers will have had Juneteenth. We had Labor Day on the same day.
I forgot to mention
something.
Juneteenth, you know. Big up to my brothers in the United States and sisters in the United States and celebrate Juneteenth. But yeah, go ahead.
No, you good. I have a few questions. You know, I always like to write down everything.
Yeah, man.
Firstly, you have any ETA on the Robin Walker documentary, or not documentary, the long chronology video?
No. Yeah.
Nothing as yet.
When I do, I will let you know. Yeah. When
I bet. And then, well, this might be a little bit of a dumb question. I don't mean to say everybody in every black person in the UK knows each other. But do you know Brother Akala? Because I remember hearing him say that Robin Walker is one of his teachers.
Yes, I do know Akala. Yes, we are acquainted.
I feel like potentially you should probably invite him on one of these programs, you know?
100%. 100%. We've had liaison with Akala about gotkushTV from a long time. And yeah. One of the things that you have to understand about Akala is that Akala is one of the most highly functioning human beings that I have the pleasure of knowing. Yeah, this brother, he gets stuff done, right? You know what I'm saying? So 9 times out of 10, you speak to Akala, he's busy with something, yeah. So it can be difficult to pin down the brother, but I've got a lot of love and respect for the brother. I've had events that he's performed at, you know what I'm saying? You know, very, very beautiful, powerful, and purposeful brother. So I just, but yeah, definitely we'll have him on at some point. So shout out to Akala anyway then in the world.
Yeah, I dig that. Second, much more important question, I would think. Do you know of any online resources that like record details of the Africans kidnapped in the British or any other imperial human trafficking schemes.
Repeat your
So
question. Repeat your question.
if you know of any resources that document records of Africans taken in these imperial powers human trafficking schemes, the so-called slave trades.
Yeah. So any like the archives of any like nation like Britain and America, they usually have archives of them thing. There is an archive online, and forgive me because I'm forgetting where it is, but I will remember. And if not before, by the next show, I will say, yeah. But you can find some of these archives online. I know that the University College London has some archives as well, yeah, in relation to Africans enslaved and also people in the UK who were owners of plantations in the Americas and so on and so forth, yeah. So yeah, those things do exist, but forgive me for not being able to give a more definitive answer at this point. But I will definitely look into it and come back.
Right. Well, no, that's not an issue, but especially if it's going to be available on another stream, that's not an issue.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, this kind of a fanboy question: if you caught brother Asa Imhotep's stream the other night
on Kemet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught it. Yeah, I saw goes in on them subject. I didn't catch it. Well, I caught the end of it live, but I didn't watch the replay. And yeah, I've heard him make some of those arguments before. So we give thanks for that. Still, he's doing that work. What I did notice most importantly is that the people them where I've not for upon them issue there never come for him. They never come live on the stream and all them thing there. So that was most interesting, you know what I mean? Like them stay far from them conversation there. And that always interests me because like that, them said dumping over for frightened, yeah. But not even just because of the quality of Asar's research, more the issue that when there's certain platforms you can't bring a certain energy to, you know what I'm saying? And I find that there's a certain style of conversation that certain people prefer, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because it allows it whereas everybody's feigning to be doing good scholarship, pursuing good scholarship. Sometimes the argumentation doesn't allow you to explore the intentionality behind the argument, if that makes sense. And so yeah, because Asar conducts his platform in a certain way, I noticed that a lot of people stay far from that because they can't have a certain levels of shaggery. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I mean? So I just say, you know what I'm saying? I'll just say go. Yeah.
But what I was specifically asking about, well, what I was specifically referencing though is how he went in on the specific tribes that he thinks that the different, like the varying representations of Southerners in the artwork, how he thinks that they represent very specific tribes that are still extant today.
Yeah.
And I found that that's the first time I ever came across that kind of information. I found that to be kind of, I don't know, mind blowing a little bit, because you see them still have a lot of the cultural retentions now. So I don't know.
100%. It's actually quite normal. I mean, if you consider the fact that the nations like Britain and America consider themselves to be the inheritors of the legacy of Greece and Rome, you'll find certain things that still exist, right? And so when you see the organic development of a peoples, then yeah, it makes complete sense. But it takes for us to do that in-depth kind of work and observation and knowledge of African culture, yeah. And one of the points that he made, which I've made many times, is that most of the people that have these arguments, they don't study African culture, yeah. They don't treat African indigenous cultures as though they are worthy of study and rigor in the way you would any other culture. You know what I'm saying? And that is part of the problem. So when you begin to do that now, some things become obvious and become beyond, in my humble opinion, denial to a certain degree. So yeah, you know what I mean. Was that it, King?
Yeah, that was the end for me.
All right, cool. Kayla, I'm gonna bring you in now. I'm gonna just hit the chat though, because there's people here where we're not healed up yet. So first of all, we want to say big up to Kushti Cosmetics, big up to James O, Kimani Ibert, big up yourself, of course, Coffee Campbell. Interesting statements as usual. Bigging up to Sister Shanice. Yeah, for those who are not aware, check out Sister Shanice and check out the Sister Shanice show. You know what I'm saying? You want to do that. So yeah, check out Sister Shanice. Yeah, global, outer national Pan-African conversation I go on over there. So you want to check out that. Subscribe, right? All right. Big up Mush. Big up Tanky. Who else me I miss now? Vital Empress, because so the Empress is vital. Yeah. Ali Garrett, Mosh again, Sister Shanice again. All right. The link is in the chat, Kings and Queens. The link is in the chat, and at the top of the chat, if you want to join the conversation, you can do so. Yeah, so feel free to do so when you're ready. All right. Don't wait till an hour from now, and then click the link because I'm done the show. All right. So yeah, click the link, Kings and Queens, and you can come through live and discuss, them topic. Yeah. Kiel, what you say?
Greetings, some brother ShakaRa and the rest of some people them on the panel, man, and the chat, man. Big up King, man. Yeah, man. What I saw, what you was talking about, the stop and search. It has brought me back to what Garvey said. The white man has succeeded in subduing the world and forcing everyone to think his way, and
yes. And
to
everyone.
Think to,
so
yeah, man.
Let me just finish it. And everyone,
Yeah,
who has come up with propaganda and accepted it has become his slave. Yes. All right. So
that's right. And I also want to talk about a white supremacist by the name of Alfred Pinar, who invented the statistics which the government uses today to discriminate black people. And we have to be very careful, as you know. Also, that biracial sister, she's known for doing a lot of unsynchronization, King. You know what I mean? She against black love. And those in the comment will know about these things. So we have to kind of refute those who don't, incline to how we need to move and not take them seriously. I just wanted to say that the 1970s and the 1960s, there were racial acts, laws that, that's supposed to be for us, and it all typifies on the racial ground of color and nationality, etc. What I was saying was, and we need to do this, is we need to collectively make racism on black people a hate crime, whether we draw our money together and we fund a politician to put this in order until we get our collective power, because it's getting ridiculous, the stop and search, listening to what you were saying. They've got no evidence. There's always excuses. So what's your opinion on making a hate crime, legal for any non-African person to practice on black people? What's your opinion on it?
As far as I'm aware, as far as the letter of the law is, by the way, Kings and Queens, I'm sorry, Karen, I'm gonna answer your question. I'm just checking the chat, and it don't seem like the links that I'm sharing are in fact coming through. Yeah. So if you're not seeing the link to come live, let me know. So we can sort it out. Yeah. When I'm posting the link to come live in the chat, let me know if you now see it. So
check and see if you're watching. Check and see if you're watching top chat rather than live chat on the YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Right here now. Hold on there. Okay. So the link is at the top of the chat. No link in the chat. Okay, but it is pinned to the top. Okay. All right. Let me try again. I say you have to double up sometime. Join the convo. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can see that now. Yeah, I'm just making sure everything's working in good order. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Kel, It is they do have hate crimes that relate, or it is considered a hate crime to be racist. Oh, sorry, racism is considered a hate crime in this country, and that would include, as it relates to African people, at least as far as the letter of the law is concerned, even if not the spirit, yeah, and and how it's applied. That said, I do believe that there is more work that needs doing, and this is one of the things that the stop and search argument is designed to negate. More work is needed in terms of codifying and particularizing the ways in which this affects us as African people. Yeah. And so there is a great push against that at the moment. The only people who it is justifiable to particularize a racist experience, yeah, around are Jews, yeah, Jewish people. Okay, so that's why you have racism, and then you have anti-Semitism, which is a very particular kind of racism that is exclusive and it only affects the Jewish community. Yeah. And so I do believe that to the extent that the African experience is a unique one, there are terminologies that we have developed within our movement, such as anti-blackness and Afrophobia, that we need to codify more and advocate more. Yeah. And this is not necessarily about it becoming the letter of the law in the UK, but just a part of the consciousness of our people, so we know how to respond accordingly when appropriate, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I've answered your question fully, but
yeah, I was more a law specific for us, King, by the system. It has, because when we're saying racial discrimination, you and I know, you know, minority, that means the mountain people, the Asians, the sand people, the Arabs, and the ice people, they can all join with that. And as we know, a lot of our kids get stop and search and nothing's been done about it. So we need a law specific for us, black people.
I hear that. Or maybe the other one is we need to be able to include terms like anti-blackness and Afrophobia within the hate crime laws that already exists. Yeah. I can't say that's going to be my particular fight, but I do see the value of what you're saying. Yeah. And there's no reason as citizens of the country, to the extent that we believe as a community that it's needed, why we shouldn't particularize that experience and ensure that the legal system recognizes it. Yeah. On a formal basis, if we so choose. Yeah. If other communities can achieve that and are allowed to do that, then there's no particular reason why we shouldn't. Yeah. But again, coming back to what I was saying a minute ago, that kind of a conversation is for those who are having these conversations at the moment, it probably supports the point that you're making, Brother Kel, that it's okay to particularize the black community in pathology, but we shouldn't particularize the black community in relation to oppression. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the things that we face at the hands of this system. Yeah. So we have a very special guest, kings and queens. Want to say something? Yeah, no problems, brother Imhotep. But I'm gonna bring forward the one and only, the world-renowned, yeah, the woman who's hotting up YouTube all over the place at the moment, Sister Shanice. Tendawari, greetings and welcome, Sister Shanice.
Tendawari, peace and love, young ShakaRa. How you doing?
I cannot complain. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, and welcome.
It's great to catch your show as well. I put on WhatsApp and I saw a link live, so I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we're there. Welcome to gotkushTV. If I'm not mistaken, it's your first time on gotkushTV.
I think it is. Yeah, it may be. Like I said, usually I miss the link or tune in too late.
We're gonna have to work that out. So we're gonna have to get you on a show at some point. You know, one of our actual flagship shows at some point. So yeah, stay tuned.
Here to serve anytime. So rise up yourself, rise up everybody in the chat. You know, it's great to have you at the forefront doing the works. We need to be having these conversations as a family and as a community. So it's great. You know,
your text.
Yeah, especially as the younger generation coming up, because us oldies, you know, we're gonna pop off the edge of the escalators at some point. So,
Well, that's it is the road for us all, as them say. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying. If all things are natural, then yes, the old generation will drop off before the youngers. You know what I'm saying? But we give back the same way because we've all got a role. You know, like I always believe that every generation still has its work. As long as we're still on this plane of existence, every generation still has its work to do. And so we give thanks for all those who recognize that and are doing it like yourself. In fact, whilst you're here, just let the people them know where them can find you and when is your next show and all them thing there and what is gonna be your discussion and these things. You know what I mean?
thank you so much. Well, my next show is actually tomorrow morning, Wednesday. So 9 a.m. every Wednesday. I'm live and direct on the Big G Galaxy Alfiwi. .net, the only de-brainwashing station, and looking forward to a conversation I'm going to be having with Brother Marmar. We have a Marmar University segment on that show, and that's been running for about 9 months, and we've been talking every week about a different aspect of our history because, as we know, we can't learn about our history in the school, colleges and universities here. They just can't bear to teach us the truth of our greatness. So we've got to share the knowledge of our history in our own community settings. And so we do that on the Big G Galaxy Afui. And of course, we've got your own organization, the Al Kabalan Revivalist Movement, who have a show on that same platform as well every Monday evening, 7 p.m. So I'll put the link to Galaxy Afui in the chat, and then
put it in the private chat. Sorry, put it in the private chat because I don't think you'll be able to post links on the live chat. So I'll put it in the live chat once you put it in the private chat. Yeah,
okay, awesome. And then on a Wednesday evening, I do a live show just like you're doing here now. So yes, everybody, please do tune in tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. UK time on my channel, the Sister Shanice Show channel. That's been running for a few years now, and every Wednesday evening we have different guests live and direct from different parts of the world. And tomorrow we've got 3 young, powerful people from the Congo, from the DRC, that are going to be coming and sharing with us, issues mainly from a political perspective about what's actually going on in Congo. So it's about us, being aware as a people about what's really happening, the sort of news that we need to hear that we don't get on the mainstream television. So that's going to be a really interesting conversation tomorrow.
Family, there is you can never know enough about what is going on in the Congo. Yeah. And so I encourage you to tune in. A couple of weeks ago, Sister Denise, we were talking about what's going on in Senegal at the moment. And so I'm arranging some interviews with some brothers and sisters in Senegal to inform, the audience about that. But there's so much going on in the Black world. It's very difficult to keep hold of it. But as people that are in media, it's our responsibility to try. Yeah, and so we're certainly doing that. And so give thanks for that. So once again, the Sister Shanice Show, Kings and Queens. Yeah, check it out if you want to know what going on in a Congo. Check it out, family. We always talk about how we need to utilize, these tools to create more unity among us. Yeah, one of the ways that we do that is by learning about the experiences of Africans and the context and the situation that Africans are living in everywhere in the world. And Congo is extremely important. Yeah, so
definitely. And what's beautiful about the technology that we've got these days is that we can liaise directly with our brothers and sisters on the ground, in the continent and from various parts of the world. First time, if we wanted to hear from them, we'd have to fly them in for a conference, put them up in accommodation, feed them and everything, and this is what, we would have to do. But nowadays, we can just beam them in via Zoom or or StreamYard. 100. And Senegal is next door to where I am right now. And so
you're in Gambia.
I
didn't realize. Okay, see. So you come from. All right. Well, we'll give thanks even more. So you come through. You know what I'm saying? We give thanks.
Well, coming towards the end of our 8-month stay here. and it's been absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's about, you know, living with our brothers and sisters and sharing, you know, the news and information that we have from the UK's perspective, because we have access to so much more information in the UK. We don't realize, you know, the extent to which we could potentially be so well informed.
100%.
And it's about sharing that information
100%.
with our brothers and sisters. And yeah.
It's beautiful, sis. I knew you went. I didn't know that you were still there, right? And so now that I'm going to answer some questions in the chat in a second. But now that I've got you here and you've been in Gambia for the last 8 months, just share a reflection with our people about your experience living in Gambia for that length of time.
Yeah. Errol, you can come and jump in as well if you want. Yeah, Gambia is amazing. It's one of the smallest countries in Africa, and it's coastal. It's a coastal part of the continent, so we've got the sea, and so you can enjoy just being on the beach on a Sunday. Is one of the most amazing days. It's family day on the beach. And to see like 1,000 heads of, you know, young Black people on the beach is just wonderful. I can never take in that scene enough. And it's a Muslim country. About 80%, 90% of the people here are very much into the Arab religion. And, you know, so there's a huge job of works to be done there, because, you know, we know that the agenda of the Arabs is to Arabize Africa, and by doing so to take over the continent. And so they're doing that through religion. But it's been here, that religion has been here for hundreds of years. And, but, you know, and it's still here. And the great thing I think to say about the Gambia as well is that they love the Jamaican influence. They love the Jamaica reggae music. They love try to chat the patois, you know, the beer Rasta out here as well. Knock, Rasta's flying the, you know, the Jamaican image. It's Errol. Marcus Garvey, and love Marcus Garvey as well. So, you know, they have that level of consciousness here, which is good. And there is that spirit of oneness here. There are a multiplicity of different nations, you know, some might call them tribes, I call them nations. You've got the Fullers, the Jollers, the Mandinkas, the Serem, about 20 different nations coexisting peacefully, and all tribute to the previous president for that, you know, who used to promote the different cultures and the celebration of the different cultures. That's not celebrated now to the extent that it was under this new government, unfortunately. But, you know, what has been happening with the Muslim religion is that, and then the bit of Christianity that's here, is that those religions take over the culture. Because whereas people would come together culturally, you know, and practice their dance and, you know, the griot stories and everything else, now what's happening is they spend a lot of that time in the mosque or in the churches praying all the time, instead of coming together to, you know, just to pass on the culture. There's a lot that needs to be done here. It reminds me of Jamaica in like the 70s, say.
Right.
So there's a lot that needs to be done, but that just means that there are opportunities here as well. Almost everything is imported. Almost everything, which needs to change. It needs to become a part of the continent that's producing something. It's coastal, for example, so plenty of fish. But we have the Chinese coming in and taking over. You know, so it's things like that that's happening. There are minerals here as well. Again, the foreign interests that are mining the minerals. So we do need our people studying manufacturing, mining, and doing that sort of thing, you know? I mean, so for example, even road building, we need African companies that are building roads, that can, you know, make roads. We need our companies that can do the the bridges. We need our engineers
Yes,
who can improve the transportation system. Maybe even, you know, lay train lines and bring in a train system. So it's all needed. And so when we look at the world from a UK perspective, sometimes we could be quite limited to all of the trials and tribulations that our young people experience there. But we absolutely must take our young people out to places like Africa, because then it will broaden their horizon, and they will see that they could actually benefit from all of the studies that the UK has got to offer, all of the university level engineering courses, science courses and stuff like that. And then left there, sir, and then stop and search and come here, sir, you know, with their skills and talents and abilities.
100%.
And that should be our strategy, really, for our next generation. We should make them.
And I know people that do that. I know people that take young men to the continent for rites of passage programs and so on and so forth. Yeah. Again, but like I was saying, all of these things is resources. You know? Plane ticket not cheap. You know what I'm saying? So it's a matter of the fact that there's greater organization that we need to do as a community to be able to invest in these institutions. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you on that point. You know.
So I hear who is it in the chat? Kofi in the chat. Rise up, Kofi, saying, but that's capitalism. Shanice and Shaka don't like that. He says that's capitalism. But the thing about it is, Kofi, right now we have a situation where, you know, Africa is the consumer for the world. So what I'm saying is that we need to be the producers and produce everything that we need: our own clothing, our own housing, our own food, you know, and the potential is here for us to do it. If we don't do it, then that means we've got to sit back and let the Arabs continue to do it, or the Chinese or the Europeans, and they exploit us in the process. Because right now over here, everything that comes in is basically rejects. That's the next thing. If you buy a broom today, tomorrow it broke.
No, wait. So the man saying second-hand underwear got Africa.
Yeah, for real.
You know
Piles of it, second-hand clothing. So, you know, we have got to come here and set up those factories, and in so doing, be creating jobs and opportunities, and, you know, be producing our own clothes for our own people.
100%. Sister Shanice, Brother Coffee is well known to this platform, and it wasn't that comment wasn't even actually for you. It was for me. I throw one. So we'll just accept that and move on. But just to say, brothers and sisters, this is what you call a capitalist talking point. Yeah, the idea is to suggest that any form of trade, any form of production, any form of commerce is inherently capitalism. And so you can't challenge capitalism whilst encouraging Africans to engage in trade and production and commerce, which is a false notion, but it's one that is designed to protect the hyper-capitalists from critique, yeah, so to speak. So yeah, we're not gonna entertain them dishonest argument. They're too tough. Let's say it, you know what I mean? I'm gonna move on. You know what I mean? So yeah. But Sister Shanice, feel free to stay where you are. I'm gonna ask some of these questions in the chat. Some of them do come from the same brother, actually. Anybody else has got a question, feel free to ask it. Or if you want to join the panel, feel free to click the link. There was another sister. But wait, I thought you cut your hair for a second there, you know, Imhotep. Well, so you chatting that to you. So I got.
You make my heart skip it out one day, and we go almost look for myself. You understand?
But yeah, I said there was another sister who came on just before I was starting. So I wonder if she's still listen. Feel free to come through. So let me answer some of these questions now. One of them is how comes the Asians don't need social funding to keep their families and communities intact? I don't know if I said that we need social funding to keep our families and communities intact. And I don't know if I ever said that. So I'm not even sure I'm going to answer that question because it's not the statement that was made. Yeah. At the same time, the idea that Asians don't receive social funding is something that you're gonna have to prove. Every community, in fact, in this community, one of the most politically organized in terms of accessing resources from the state is the Asian community over here. Yeah, they have whole boroughs. Yeah, that they you know, whereby they have a significant influence on the borough and the spending of the borough and the education system within the borough and so on and so forth. For example, I know when I was going to secondary school, the Asian community in East London made sure that Urdu was a GCSE so that their children can get qualified in that particular language as a recognized qualification and go on to become translators and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So the idea that they don't access social funding is false, but at the same time, it was never made, the argument was never made that social funding is how we need social funding to keep our community and our families intact. But this is an argument that is designed to deflect from the criminalization of the community via the police force, yeah, and the fact that the methods that are being used by the police force are not solving problems. So when you suggest something else now, we get an argument like this. If you got a question, feel free to ask it in the chat. Most of them seem to be from Coffee Campbell at the moment, so yeah. Apologies for those who complained to me about these things, but I say it go. How come crime wasn't a problem in the black community when we were much poorer and there was no welfare state? The idea that when we was much poorer, you're gonna have to clarify that. Or you're here now, so let's go. Why you just have to come through no when we want for close the show in 25 minutes? Go ahead. You did say you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to something I should have mentioned a little earlier when I was speaking. I want to impress upon the audience, wherever they may be, the value of studying the law, not necessarily professionally, but studying the law with serious intent wherever you live, right? Because a lot of what occurs to us, against us, is ingrained in the state apparatus. A lot of the things that they do to us is not illegal. They consciously make it legal first so that there's not much recourse that we can do.
100%.
And I have found, I'm studying law currently, but way before I was actively studying law, I had access to, let's say, the legal fraternity in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So I grew up with a certain curiosity for what these rules are that we're not allowed to do in society, right? But it makes, when I have conversations with people, at least in Trinidad, it makes me realize that most people are woefully unaware of pretty much any law in Trinidad and Tobago, except, let me say, you can't kill and you can't steal. Some foolishness like that, right? And the way that the state itself is structured, the hierarchy, especially us who live in former British colonies, our governmental structure is often based, often taken, a lot of the old laws are retained from when we were colonies, and then the structure itself, the parliamentary structure, is based on British law. And so the structures of state, the different arms of state, do not benefit the citizens, because they were never meant to benefit the citizens. They were not written to benefit the colony. It was written to benefit the so-called mother country. You understand? So I can't impress enough upon the audience the kind of clarity that you get about the state that you live in, the country that you live in, the society that you live in, when you begin to understand the kind of laws that everybody is constrained by. It's eye-opening.
I agree with you, my brother. And a lot of this comes to the fact that we have constitutions as well. Our laws are derived from also constitutions. By the way, Coffee, your device now connect, you know, it looked like Eshu block your party. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Eshu block up your party.
Regular thing.
You need to go back to the crossroads and come again. Yeah, you know what I mean? And pour a libation and, you know, throw some guzum and all them thing there.
Make me go get my elect, brother.
Yeah. I'm sharing, Sister Shani shared the link for Galaxy Radio. So I'm sharing the link for Galaxy Radio now in the chat. One of the things that is interesting is when you look at this process right now whereby Jamaica is trying to become a republic, and the extent to which the people are engaged in the process. Yeah, and a lot of the conversations relate to the rewriting of the constitution. And I'm saying that there's a vital opportunity there. You know, like under the People's Revolutionary Government of Grenada, one of the things that they were in the process of doing when the revolution imploded was engaging the masses in the rewriting of a new constitution. Yeah, and they were going to have constitutional bodies as a part of the various different parish councils, yeah, made up of the people that they had already instituted. And I'm saying that I think one of the ways of solving the problem that you identify, Brother Imhotep, is the engaging ourselves and each other in a process such as that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And making that a part of the education system and everything like that. You know what I mean? But I think that laws, the law is hidden from the people so that it can be used to take advantage of the people. Yeah. That is often the case. And so you're right that we as a community, we need to empower ourselves by teaching each other the law. And that's another thing that a lot of our brothers and sisters in the community do. Yeah, when we're working with youth, we teach them about stop and search. We teach them their rights. Yeah, we teach them how to respond to Babylon when Babylon stop them. Yes, we do teach them to survive the encounter and not respond in any inflammatory ways, to de-escalate situations, and not only with police but amongst each other as well. Yeah, and them kind of things. But with them now, but talk about them work there. Yeah,
political science, man.
Right, science. I'm saying. Yeah, me no man in a kill there Birmingham. Me no man at Birmingham where I do them work here. Yeah, and but again, you're not gonna hear them name there in the conversation when them depend Jeremy Vine attack. You know, see it. Coffee still trying to get through and issue now make him come through, you know. So
I'm gonna say, Shaka, right? You know, when you're talking about the OBE, right? Yeah. Should we as the black community have our own where we're rewarding those who are participate
in
the collective and that, you understand?
Yeah, man. Marcus Garvey and the UNIA did have an award system, you know. Them never have a thing where, you know, you have the you know, the supreme lady commander of the Order of the Nile. You know what I mean? Where you want with Order of British Empire when you have supreme lady commander of the Order of the Nile? You know what I mean? It appears its significance when you have Order of the Nile and supreme.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I them things that for go on. You know what I mean? And the reality is, it's actually very much a part of many indigenous African societies and cultures. You have title giving systems, yeah.
That's right.
People earn certain titles through their roles and their responsibilities within the community, yeah. And so yeah, long time we are doing them thing there, but you know, and when we do it in that way, we're doing it for work that it serves our people rather than serves the interests of the colonizer. Yeah,
that's right.
You know, because the colonizers only really, and this is not to disparage again the people, but it's just a reality. Them now gonna give you not honor for the work that's negatively affecting their political interests. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's gonna go. You know what I mean? And we got a prime example of that when Mugabe was dancing to them tune. Yeah, in the 90s. Them give him OBE. Yeah, my man was Sir Mugabe. Yeah. And when no him go for take the land back and support the war veterans, them take back the OBE to again, them take back the knighthood and the sirage, them take it back. Yeah, I said no, we're not give them thing there because you're no longer serving our political interests. Yeah, I just say it go. You know what I mean? So if ever I end up on the monarch honors list, me know me I do something wrong. Yeah, me know me I do something wrong. You know see it? Yeah, then you gotta see me just get revolutionary and pick up some M16 and just go mad because something wrong. Me do something wrong. Yeah,
gotta take that back.
Yeah, me just go mad because you know what I mean. Yeah, you know. Anyway, listen, there's a couple questions in the chat. I'm gonna answer. It looked like yeah, you know. Eshu tell Coffee, nah, not tonight. So sorry, Coffee. It's not my fault. You know what I mean? Kush did have. I'll come back to Coffee's questions. Kush did have a question. Kush did say, question: what's the difference of getting an Oscar? We know who it owned by, Grammy to getting an OBE. And this is a very good question, yeah, because right, you know, you're right. On one level, there is no difference. Yeah, on one level, there is no difference. Okay, on one level, there is no difference. On another level, the Oscar and the Grammy doesn't carry the name of the British Empire. Do you know what I'm saying, right? That's another level of things, yeah. I am an individual who like them always I talk about Grammy for reggae and them things. And I'm like, well, why are we so obsessed with the reggae Grammy? The genre of reggae music, you know, was created in spite of the American music industry. Yes, it's not beholden to the American music industry. So why is the highest award in the American music industry considered the pinnacle achievement for us in our own genre of music? Yeah, that not make sense to I. Yeah, and so I believe that we should we should, there's an artist by the name of Toby in Wigwe.
Right.
Is a rapper, and he raps with his wife, who is referred to as Fat, yeah, in Wigwe, yeah. And they got a song called Fire, yeah, Fire. And in the tune, she says, might win a Grammy. That's the floor to us. Yeah. It's just not even that important, Aya. And I would love when we as a people globally get to that level of consciousness. We're not even business for them award. We don't care about it. Why? Because we have Supreme Leader, Commander of the Order of the Nile. Yeah, for them things at all. We would be in a very beautiful position, yeah, when we get to that point whereby so much of our aspirations are not defined by succeeding within their institutions. Yeah, so yeah, very, very important question. Yeah, so yeah, on one level it's not different, on another level it's slightly different. The British monarchy is a very particular institution. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And on another level, the Oscar and the Grammy and the so on and so forth is still all caught up with colonization and enslavement, and you know what I mean, and all them things, because it's America, right? So yeah, we have it's a very good question, Sister Kushti, and one that we should pay attention to. Let me come back to coffee deflection. I mean question. Right now. Hold on there. How come crime wasn't a problem in the Black community when we were much poorer and there was no welfare state? So this is an interesting question. I don't know where you're speaking about, and I don't know what pieces of information you're using to validate your premise. Okay. However, what I can say is this: we came to the UK from nations that were impoverished by colonization. One of the reasons why my grandparents came here was to work. Why? Because work was difficult to find in a colonized nation. Okay, we were coming from a position, a place of economic hardship, reality. Okay. It would be true to say, however, there was less crime, yeah, among us at that point. I don't know if the poverty levels were that disparate. One of the things that I can say is that we have high rates of unemployment among Black men, particularly young Black men in the UK at the moment, yeah. But then there is no one cause. And this is what people like to do. So they're going to tell you now, this is the talking point. I'll get to the point. This is the talking point. There's not enough fathers in the home. Yeah. That's supposedly the cause of the problem. Okay. And that might be a contributing factor. But to put it down as the cause is oversimplifying the argument. Yeah. I'm not sure what the welfare state has to do with anything. Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with anything. But the idea that in Western society, poverty rates contribute towards crime is well established. And if you look at the work of people like Amos Wilson, you will understand this concept such as the structuralization of crime. So it's not that poorer communities are necessarily any more criminal than wealthier communities. It's just that crime is structured differently within the society. Yeah. So a man who has access, yeah, to millions of dollars of finances and knows how to embezzle funds is not going to run up to an old lady on the street and take her handbag. It's still theft, right? But even in the law, they use different languages, right? Yeah. Theft, robbery, embezzlement of funds, right? You know what I'm saying? All this language, come back to what Imhotep was saying a while ago. All of this language is actually about the structuralization of crime along class lines. And it just so happens that our community is overrepresented in statistics of poverty. That's one thing. The second thing is that we come from communities that were once organized and increasingly organizing ourselves to empower ourselves. And in empowering ourselves, we were challenging those who were attempting to disempower us. Yeah. In this country, in the 1980s, history lesson, stop and search was a significant thing. The crime with and the violence towards each other in the black community was not as significant a thing. The black community began to challenge the criminalization of the black community by the state. This produced what is referred to as the uprisings of the 1980s. Brixton and half the country in 1981. Well, Bristol in 1980, then Brixton and half the country in 1981. Then you have Brixton again and Tottenham in 1985. Yeah. There was no gang issue in the black community during this time. Okay. One of the things that I can say is that my parents were involved in the Broadwater Farm campaign. For those who may not be aware, stop and search situation in Broadwater Farm, to cut a long story short, killed a sister, yeah, and uprising kick off in a Tottenham, yeah. All right. The police had Broadwater Farm estate under siege, yeah, under lockdown, yeah, for months, yeah, and to the point whereby the community had to organize itself to be able to smuggle in water and food and all them things there onto the estate. Yeah. There was no gang problem in Tottenham at this time. There was no drugs problem in Tottenham at this time. There was no gun problem in Tottenham at this time. All of those things follow and increase after the siege of Broadwater Farm Estate in Tottenham. Yes. So we see that the destruction of our liberation movements, the same can be said for the United States of America and the FBI incursion against the Panthers. The destruction of our liberation movements, the arrest and the mass incarceration or the significant incarceration of African men produces social conditions within our community that lend itself, yeah, towards criminal activity. Then the machinery of said criminal activity is infused into the community. Yeah. And the reality is that oftentimes as a community, we were not strong enough to withstand those attacks against ourselves. Yeah. So we can say, no, people my parents' generation can remember when there was a weed shortage. Yeah. We know, say, you know, if anything that we was known for is ganja. Yeah. So when the ganja now start to get shot and then you're starting to see crack cocaine, entering the black community, where that come from? I know we bring it there. Yeah. So younger generations now who are born into a circumstance, an impoverished circumstance, whereby this is just a part of their environment now, begin to take on these opportunities, yes, that are surrounding them. Yeah. So the issue then becomes, how do we solve these problems? And I'm saying already that there are people in our community that are doing that work right now. Yeah. So a better question, yeah, a better question that you could have asked is, how do we begin or better support the institutions in our community that are actively doing work to solve those problems? Me notice you're not asked them question. Yeah. Why is it that many in our community are supporting police policies and the increased police presence in our communities, even though it is proven not to work? Why? What is the purpose of this? All it ever succeeded in doing, increased police presence in our community for stop and search, only ever succeeded in further criminalizing our community. It has never solved issues of guns, issues of drugs, issues of violence. It has never solved these issues. Never. Yeah? So when we are asked question about when the crime and the violence and the why we not talk about no solution? Yeah, all right. So it look like Eshu decide for make coffee come true. So we're gonna see what coffee I say. Yeah, you're on the button of 10 of Lord of mercy, of 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. over here. You know, a long time. So just true.
Yeah, it look like
Go ahead.
Yeah, it look like we come at a bad time. Sorry about that. Sorry for the connection problem. Yeah, you talk about solving the problem and how we can finance programs in the community.
I didn't say finance. I said a resource, but finance is a resource. Yeah.
Yeah, you need finance. You need money. See, like I said, it takes cash to care. You need money for programs in the black community. Well, the question I would have asked is,
gonna ignore that red herring. We're not gonna chase it down that road there when you try to bring Siaga to the stations. That's got true.
Yeah, well, the question I would have asked is, why is it that we need social programs on top of the biggest social program, which is public education? Remember, the whole point about public education in the 19th century was to address so-called social problems. I mean, the progressives, to justify public schooling, use the whole notion of a market failure. Entrepreneurs wouldn't give us school or wouldn't offer schools to poor people. And then if we don't do that, then we're going to have social problems. But after public education and after the welfare state, we still have these social problems. I mean, it's not just the UK. Jamaica is the same thing. America is the same thing. Canada too, when you come on to the black community, all the countries, the so-called Western countries that where black people are in large minority numbers. We have these problems, right? We have the social problem, and then we have people saying, okay, we need more social spending. And then the conservatives say, no, it's a policing problem and a family problem. Yeah, so I mean, both sides have studies to back up what they're saying. You know what I mean? So the question I would have asked is, go back to the root. Why is it that the biggest social problem invented in the 19th century did not solve the social problems that came about conveniently after the welfare state? After black people got welfare.
It wasn't designed to. The public education system is a part of the system of global white supremacy, just like every other system. There is a correlation between exclusion from school and induction into the criminal justice system. yeah, as a perpetrator of a crime. All right. So to a significant degree, the outcomes that we see among Black people and Black youth in particular can be attributed or at least delineated to their experience in school. Yeah. So, and the difference between this is not, I mean, I know you know you have to defend the private education argument, you know, it's a consequence of your politics, but that the difference here is not between public education and private education. Neither serves our interests as African people, and the illusion is that success would lead maybe to us not being considered criminals on the street, but also success leads to us being absorbed into a criminal empire, into the criminal empire, so to speak. And so we have to be.
Well, I would say.
But sorry, but let me finish quickly. But yeah, so the reality is that when we see disproportionate levels, the education system is designed to create what the society needs, and the society needs a certain level. Like it's set up a certain way. No matter how good you get on the exam, only a certain number of people are going to get A's and A stars and B's and so on and so forth. It's already pre-designed a certain way because they need certain levels, people operating at different classes. And they need a labor class. They also need a criminal class, right? And they have decided to a significant degree that we are going to represent a certain level of a criminal class. That is not even talking about the psychological issues that come into this as well. And a good reading for this is Black on Black Violence, the Psychodynamics of Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination by Baba Amos Wilson. Yeah. If we're not discussing it on this level, then we're not solving the problem, really and truly. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
At the same time, Coffee. One of the things that is also that I didn't mention earlier is the number of independent schools, Saturday schools and otherwise. Yeah.
Yep.
Who that are effectively solving or
and we want more of those things. That's what we want because the problem is not.
But sorry. Again, working though and with little resources, yeah, and doing good work. So the point, So the point is that the argument is being made that the police need to be funded further. Yes, this is the argument.
No, man, don't go there, sir. I never bring that up. That's a red herring. I never bring it up. Hold on. So let me go.
I never said you said this. I'm dealing.
So why are you bringing it up?
Because
in the context of what I said.
Just listen, and you discover why, right? So the argument that is being made with the stop and searching, because the subject is stop and search, this is a policy to empower police to increase their presence, yes, and their methods within our community. And there is funding that is going to be put to the use of these bodies in order to do so, whilst they are asking, well, what else can we do? Yes, what else should we? What other options are there? The point is that, but demonstratively, there are other options available based upon the work that people in the community itself is doing. The same money where you are put towards Babylon, or you can put it towards.
But again, as usual, you just argue with Strawman. Can we never bring up no policing as a solution? All right, so if you
but the conversation was about the legislation concerning stop and search.
And we all agree that not going to work. We all agree. So I don't know why you bring it up again. So they if you're going to argue, say, well, public education never make for Black people, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? And that's why I have these social problems. It's the same thing. For the same argument can be made for the welfare state. Bureaucrats in UK or America aren't going to be reading Amos Wilson and fashioning programs tailored towards Black communities.
You cut out, Coffee.
As you say, only the people in those communities know what their interests are, not people far away in some bureaucracy, right? And the reason why we don't get enough resources or resources can't stretch anymore is because, again, government policy, the destruction of the dollar and the pound and the euro by policies, environmental policies, central bank policies,
actually,
these things.
The destruction of the dollar and the euro and the pound is far more to do, at this point in history, to do with banks and corporations than it is governments.
Yeah, but I was making my point, and you just. How about when I finish and then like how did allow you?
You are correct. Go ahead. It's a nice reversal
All right.
of roles at the moment, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll take
yeah,
your
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying that it has to be a multi-pronged approach, and this whole idea that government social spending, which is the argument that UK Guardian put forward. That's the only argument they put forward, right? Is that government's supposed to solve social problems.
That's
Those
a
things not going to work because they're too far from the people. They don't know what is the interest of the
That's
people.
a misrepresentation.
Only the people in these communities know what is in their interest. And if there's no environment to allow them to freely farm, what? So UK Guardian know more about what is in black people interest than black people? You really argue that?
So and I think you're misrepresenting the thing. What happened was, the example that was given was about, first of all, not treating
break up.
You're breaking up. Lord of mercy. Yeah, you need to find socialist internet coffee. You know what I'm saying?
You have to go to Cuba.
yeah, you have to go to Cuba for your you have to get the Cuban the Cuban connection to your internet.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, Cuba and Venezuela, you have to go. Forget your internet connection. All right, listen, I'm over time, but brother Errol in a Gambia want to join the conversation, and I got
Sister Kush in the back.
And I got Kush as well, yeah.
Yeah, rise up. Al-Caribbean.
Yes, King.
Daddy, yeah, and everybody in the UK from the Gambia. Yeah, I've listened to the program from most of the beginning, and I heard a young man speaking earlier about Jamaica and certain things he said. But until we can unite and help ourselves and be self-sufficient, we will get nowhere. We can't rely on no government. No government is going to be here to help the people. The government is only there to help themselves. As you could see in the COVID, so-called vaccination rubbish that they created. Yeah, they don't help nobody. They don't help their own people, much less black people. No program is put in place to help us. I was living in America during the crack epidemic, and they created the crack epidemic. The Reagan administration created that crack epidemic.
100%.
And on top of that, in Jamaica, Ciaga,
yeah, you're right. You're
Ciaga from Tivoli Garden, he created that old crack shire posse, go to America, shoot up ideology was created by his government, Jim Brown and Tivoli Garden. Yeah, so we need to know that government is not there to help us. Government is there to be controlled by their puppets, controlled by the West. Yeah, our own interest is to help each other and to unite and get together and help each other. No one's going to help us. No Chinese, no Americans, nobody. Africa is for African. Africa will help Africans. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, brother Era. Good to hear your voice, and hope the Gambia are treating you well. You know what I mean? So
very well.
Yeah, give thanks. I'm going to come back to you, Coffee. Empress Kush is on the line. You haven't missed my Coffee. I haven't said anything more since you left. I just went to brother Errol in Gambia, and we're going to go to Empress Kush now. So Empress Kush, you there?
Yeah, rise up, family. Very powerful panel today. Yes, it's great to see you back. Powerful panel as well. So it was interesting listening. I just wanted to, I know I've got a bad habit of coming in when the brother wants to go lock up for tonight. So excuse me, but it was getting too juicy. So I just had to add my little 2 pence in.
You're allowed, Kush. You're allowed.
Thank you. It was actually you listening to your passion and you breaking down some real truths that prompted me to come on, because it's really true. You get a sense, especially because I feel like a lot of what you were saying as well, I think that probably was getting overlooked about was the way that you were saying that how people within our own community are actually, as what the quote that brother King Cal gave you from Honourable Marcus Garvey in regards to how we even ourselves are believing this propaganda and pushing for police and more police. And when I was listening to you, it actually makes you wonder why we would promote for more funding to go into a police force, knowing with the statistics that you've given us doesn't do anything for us. Like, you've really got to think of the psychological aspect of people, because even if you don't know the statistics, we know that as people, we know that just being here, that these stops and searches, and even these strip searches now that they're doing on youth, is doing nothing but just building more of a divide within our community.
100%.
So you do have to wonder why people will still promote that and then say, well, what else if not that? And when you were saying the main question that should be asked, which you're right, is in why aren't people in the positions doing it getting a mention? I do think, like what Brother Cal said, the likes of this Kim Lee, I'm not sure of her name.
Lin
May. I don't think that these people should be the representative to be talking on Black issues, period. If you want to talk in regards to the knife crime within the UK, you should be directly talking to the 50 plus people that you have mentioned. If you want to talk about education, we've got Black Child Agenda. We need to put our foot down in regards to who we allow to talk on our behalf, because you have someone like a Lynn who picks and chooses when she decides to be Black, talking on a very prominent specific Black issue. And then doing more damage in regards to promoting for more of the damage. So when you're saying that, you know, we have good groups out there and good men doing it, and when you're saying that passion, that passion is absolutely warranted, because these Saturday schools are not cheap to keep running. And then we already know that Black people are at the bottom regards to financially, typically in the world. So where are we going to get this funding from? It's like, if we're saying that we're going to demand funding from a government, it's like we're begging them for help, but yet we pay taxes. We pay taxes.
Yeah, but the thing is,
let me just finish. Yeah. So, because what I'm saying is, right, to say to the government, for me, to say to the government that, look, there's certain things that we need as paying tax, especially because we've got I think we forget as well that we're talking about the UK. We're not talking about a country within the diaspora. So we're already a small minority anyway. So the amount of money to get these kind of commercial properties that would be needed to fund, to feed, to house, to rent right now, when they can't even do it for their own people, you're asking a lot from a minority in a group. But same group that has helped build up their institutions like the NHS, who have paid taxes, we've done a lot within this community. So for us to say that we demand this like other protected groups have done, because all of these groups ain't just done it by the pennies amongst themselves.
It's a legitimate.
There's a load of them that have had it. So I'm just saying that this kind of notion that, you know, I'm just saying that, and I'm just saying here right now that, you know, to say that, okay, the government is going to the police and what else to do, but then we've got all of these institutions that are actually generally helping them, but why aren't they getting a say? Why, when there's Black issues, are the real ones helping us not getting spots or spoken about? Why are we letting anybody, as per usual, just speak for Black people? And my second part to that is, if we're paying taxes just like any other group, so sometimes I think we need to take the emotion out of it and think with our business head, just like other communities do, right? We paying the taxes, we deserve to get back out of it. If we decide that is a youth club or a building for us to do our Saturday schools uninterrupted, not to say that we want money or books, it might just be give us the building. You know, there's a way to utilize this power that we're feeding into with our taxes continuously. That's just my.
But the problem is, the problem is, you know, the more taxes you give to government for X, is the more you're not gonna get X. That's just how government works. You understand? So instead of asking the government to give you more stuff, what we should be doing is ask the government to tax less so we can keep more of what we earn and then do more with what we earn. In other words, the more government tax, the more government regulate, the more government have all kind of red tape around business and entrepreneurship, is the less avenues that poor communities have to escape.
Unfortunately, because where you're going there, it's just a private sector argument. We're not dealing with
Let me just
versus
let
public.
me just finish the wicked private sector argument. All right, so the reason why entrepreneurship was so central to Garvey is because at that time it was common knowledge that is entrepreneurship is what builds wealth and builds communities.
Was that private enterprise or was that communal economics? Was not
private? It was it was private enterprise, private individual deciding what they want to do with their money. That's the whole.
But can I just come in though, just so you don't get what I'm saying wrong, because I think we had this last time a few weeks back where I was agreeing with ShakaRa that I think that we can do two things at once. Well, like we can chew gum and walk. So while saying what we are owed or what we expect and start putting our foot down and have some backbone as a community and safeguard ourselves, we can also do communal enterprise businesses and things like that. We could do two things at the same time. Other communities do it, and I think when we just hold on to one thing, tie it down, and then just talk down on it, it makes us look like we can't comprehend that two things can happen at the same time.
No,
just because because when you're saying about, oh, you should be telling them to pull down our taxes, you're talking about, if I'm doing that, I'm fighting an argument for everybody in Britain. I'm a small minority in Britain. I don't care. We have small enough numbers that we can't be worrying about that. This is why.
All right, so let me ask you. Let me ask you. You think $1 in Black people's pocket is better spent by Black people or better spent by the UK government?
So again, we're not actually dealing with the actual argument that was being made, and because we're missing the context and we're just trying to put forward the neoliberal talking point, we're ignoring a lot of the context.
Well, you can't.
The reality,
come with non-sequitur.
The reality is this.
Logical fallacy.
Listen to the context. Listen to the context. Listen to the context. And by the way, another day, because we're not going to do it today, but another day we'll destroy your misrepresentation of Marcus Garvey and the UNAACL.
Sure. We'll have a debate on that.
You don't trust me. You don't want
long time you want to debate you on that.
You don't want to debate me on that. You just say again.
Can I make some final comments, some final remarks?
No problem. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I've been listening to the conversation, and a lot of what has been said to me makes the assumption that the British government is there to service us as Africans in the same way that they're there to service their own people. And I think that's the mistake that most of us actually make. They very cleverly made us believe that, they want to treat us equally. They want to provide us with the same level of services. They want to educate us as good as, or, even better than, if we want, their own people. They want to provide us with a health service that's, good for our community. They want to create jobs and opportunities for us. They want to give us housing like everybody else. They want to give us jobs like everybody else. But if we look at the statistics, what the statistics clearly show is that on all of those indicators, the government is systematically failing us as a community. Their institutions have been found to be institutionally racist. That means we get an inferior service from all of their institutions. They fail us in terms of health. African women, Black women, 5 times more likely to die in hospital giving birth to children. They fail us in their education system. Our young boys are turned off education by the age of 13, 14. They go in keen to learn, but the curriculum that they're taught, what is one that makes them feel inferior rather than, superior or even any confidence in themselves. The criminal justice system, is designed against us. We are X times more likely to be criminalized, X times more likely to be sentenced, X times more likely to be found guilty. The whole system is designed against us as a people. So when you look at health, when you look at education, when you look at the criminal justice system, when you look at housing, you know, our young people are more likely not to get housing. They're more likely to be sofa surfing. You know, the system is designed against us as a people. When you look at unemployment, more likely to be unemployed, more likely to be long-term unemployed. It's not that we haven't got the skills, talents, and abilities. The whole system is designed against us. Yet some of us think that it's there, you know, for us. It's not there for us.
Thank you.
If we start rising, they start falling, and they're not ready to start falling. You know, look at the image our king has got in the background there. You know, that's who we're the descendants of great ones. We are greater than we can even begin to imagine. You know, the images I've still got on my screen, say, from African Liberation Day. These were some of the people who fought, you know, for our liberation and our freedom and our independence. We would still be enslaved as Africans if our freedom fighters hadn't fought for our freedom and liberation. They didn't want to give us freedom. And even when we managed to fight and gain our freedom, they came back and colonized us, you know, and the whole 60 years of colonization has been designed to cripple us in their countries and to cripple us on the continent as well in Africa. They are refusing to leave us alone so that we can grow and blossom in the way that we have the potential to. So we have to recognize and wake up as a people that the system is not there to save us. They could be funding Black organizations right now. They could start doing that tomorrow if they wanted to. Yeah, they could be putting money into Saturday schools, into full-time Black educational programs if they wanted to. They don't want to. They could be putting money into funding Black entrepreneurs, Black history. They could be putting money into creating job opportunities for our young people. They could be putting money into business startup programs for young people. They could be putting money into business enterprise centers for our people, youth community centers. They could be doing all of this if they really wanted to. They don't want to see us rise. They don't want to see the Black man rise. Their biggest fear is that we as a people will rise, because their biggest fear is if we rise, they fall. So what we've got to realize is that by thinking and believing that they want to provide us with a whole range of services and look after us as a people, one, it stops us from doing what we need to do, which is to build our own communities from the family upwards. Yeah, and if we continue to think, you know, on an integrational level, you know, think the police are there for us. How can any of us think the police are really there for us? Are they solving our crimes? Are they solving the murders within our community? Or are they criminalizing us and our people? We've really got to start seeing things for what they really are. They're not there for us. We've got to come together, and we've got to, as Errol was saying, work together, build each other from the family upwards, because strong families,
that's right,
and strong communities build strong nations. So if they break our families, which is what they do when they take the fathers and take the boys and take the men out of the family, they break the family up, then they break up our community. So we need to, what our Windrussians had was fathers in the household, fathers in the community. And they were there, good, bad, or indifferent, they were there for the family. And we need to bring back and have the man in the family, heading up the family, looking after the children, and very importantly, we need to have plenty children. Caribbeans are dying out in England, dying out. Created over 500,000 mixed race children. Look at the statistics. In the last 20 years, we have created over 500,000 mixed race children, and the Caribbean community is dying out. And there is a spirit that we have that the other communities don't have. So we need to start multiplying. That's my final word.
Amen, sister. Yo, Shanice, some of the things. Sister Shanice, some of the things. Yeah, man.
Hold on. Thank you very much, Sister Shanice. Yeah, and like I said, everybody check out Sister Shanice tomorrow morning and evening We're actually going to be interviewing the man from the Congo. Yeah, so we appreciate
Yeah,
you.
man.
We'll talk to you again soon. All right. Give thanks.
Oh,
Okay.
I wanted to ask the Queen a question.
Oh,
Though.
go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
Rise up, Queen, Sister Shanice. I follow you a
Rise
lot
up,
anyway.
Queen.
I just wanted to ask on what you said, because I do agree with you in regards to we have to do it ourselves and not expecting the government to work for to do it, because like you said, if they wanted to, they would have done it by now. When you said about what is the key is to building up our homes and working with ourselves, I think this is what I was trying to say. As it stands now, in order to do that, I think there's a lot of healing that needs to be taking place. I think there's a lot of self-healing and a lot of like therapy, our own type of therapy, but a lot of healing, therapy and correction that needs to take place. And I feel that we might have the groups and organizations within us set up to do that, as Brother ShakaRa said, but they don't have the funding. So this is when I say to utilize them, to not beg them, to not expect them to save it, but to utilize them, to play them at their own game. And if I feel that, for example, the LGBT, or if you're looking like North London, the Jewish community, or the J community, sorry, Brother ShakaRa, these people, they're not just giving it. They have people in certain positions who are solely unapologetically for them, just pushing for their agenda. So they might, so for example, if we had that equivalent, perhaps we'd be able to get a hall, or like even in North London, the Turkish community, you know, they've not been here that long, and the amount of buildings and community centers that were once actual Caribbean based ones that are now Turkish in their own language and things like that they've taken over. That is definitely, yes, them using their own funds, but definitely where they've had people within the system, they've told them ways to get in and out of it. And I feel that at one point, because the Windrush, especially from the Windrush generation, a lot of them were in public sectors. They knew about how to get in loopholes and things like that to utilize for ourselves. And I think that that's where I feel like our kind of savviness is lost. If we had someone who had the African true mindset to be able to just utilize these things around us, as well as us doing for our own, I feel that that would be in a better position. But I think sometimes when I hope I'm saying that clearly, because if not, what I'm worried about is sometimes that come across as begging the government, and that's not what I'm saying. It's like, so is what I'm saying coming across?
Yeah, I hear you, sis. And, you know, you're right in what you're saying. We are entitled to, you know, have a fair share of the services and the goods and the community resources and facilities and grants and everything that the council has to offer. We are entitled to it. We've been paying into the system for generations. We fought in their wars. Exactly. They put us up front and we died first in fighting their wars. And our people came back, couldn't get jobs, couldn't get houses to live in, were treated like, you know, worse than dogs on the street. You see, you know, but we don't learn as a people. Yeah. You know, we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. There are community halls and facilities that are empty in every single London borough and every single council up and down this country. They could give us community halls for our young people tomorrow. They don't want us to be organizing ourselves. Their biggest fear is that we will become organized. Their biggest fear is that if we organize, we will start to make demands on them and start improving our quality of life and start excelling as a people. They don't want that to happen. They would rather lock up our children and have them in prison rather than create job and opportunities for them. And that is the reality. You know, they have to increase job and search to justify locking up all of our children, to keep giving the impression that all of our young people are criminals, you know, because they have to, you know, get the public buy-in to do all of their dirty. And this is why they deliberately portray our children on their television as criminals. And you're never going to see them portraying the bright ones and the young scientists and everyone, you know, all of those that are doing exceptionally well. So it's all by design. why we're being portrayed in the particular way that we are. I'm sure if we were to examine the statistics, you know, if anything, our community is probably, you know, more religious, more God-fearing and law-abiding than any other community.
Absolutely.
But, you know, because most of us know how most of our households are, you know, so it's not as though we're not entitled to, you know, the goods and services from the local authority. But what I will say is that my parents' generation, when they came and they faced the signs, no dogs, no Irish, and everything else, they got together, and because they were Christians and they wanted to go to church and the white churches didn't want them, they got together and they built their own churches. They put their hands in their pocket and they pulled their money together. They built their own churches. They set up their own businesses. My dad had his own business. They got together, did their partner, bought their own houses. They didn't rely on social housing. They had a very different mindset, you know. And when the government saw all of this
mindset,
then what they did was they started putting obstacles in the way, and then they also started giving the impression that we, the next generation, we could have social housing. We didn't need to buy our own housing, you know, and we could go to their church. We didn't need to continue building their churches. We can go to their schools. We don't need to build their own schools. And so we have been sidetracked. We were doing quite fine when we were being segregated. When we have to do for self, we come together. And we do for self, and we build our communities, we put our hands in our pocket. You said that we're traumatized as a community and there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. Yes, there is, but let me tell you this, when we had our family structures, our extended family structures, you know, we were able to support each other within our community. And you know, quite often, people who are traumatized, got mental health problems, that only comes about because they're isolated, they're on their own, there's nobody to talk to, they're stressed. But, you know, if we are building our families and we have our extended family relationship, like, you know, I grew up in a family, there was 8 of us as brothers and sisters, there was cousins, aunties, grandma, grandpa, there was always somebody, people around in the house, you know, this is
a real village.
We're not made to be living on our own in some council flat and they're half starving and there's nobody you feel you can go to get a little food, and you did that and you're dead in the house for 2 years and nobody none more. And that's not our culture, you know. And so we've adopted another culture, we've embraced their social welfare system, and when they're all begging for the crumbs that they want, that they tell us is dropping off of their table but doesn't. And whilst we're there waiting for the crumbs, we're not doing what we need to be doing, like, you know, making
building
the black millionaires, seeking them out, getting the athletes that don't get any publicity and promotion, you know, to start investing in our community. You know, we need to have a different strategy. I mean, ShakaRa knows I was involved in community and ran a community project for 25 years plus. You know, went down the road myself of seeking funding and stuff like that, which was available in the beginning. But if I could do that all over again, I would run it as a private enterprise, and I wouldn't ask for council, because who pays the piper calls the tune? Yeah, they tell you how you can spend it, and then they deliberately always underfund you, so you haven't got money to employ full-time staff. They deliberately underfund you, so you can't provide the range of services that they want. You know, they would give us, say, 10,000.
The new slave master.
They're giving like kids company 30 million that they can't account for. So they know exactly what they're doing. And we need to wake up and realize that these people, all the reports are out there, you know, to talk about institutionalized racism and the gap between the different communities and how we're being under-resourced. They know all of this. It's not by accident, it's by design. We need to stop and change our and remember, when we start doing for self, like our parents did, so like, for example, when we started Carnival, we start Carnival, what they'll do when it gets big, they'll come in and take it over. When we start things up, we've got to hold on to it, control it, manage it, and not give it over. It was my generation that started all of these festivals in the park. We started the festivals in Brockwell Park, Peckerai Park, you know, Finsbury Park, all these parks, our sound systems, our stalls that would come and benefit from the income on the day, you know, our artists that would be on stage, our promoters, our radio station. It was an industry for us. What did the local authority do? They come in and take it over. Now they're getting all the income from Carnival. They're the ones who are controlling all the schools, and the fee is so high, our people can't even afford to have schools at Carnival, and it was an income for us. We allow them to come in and take over. Who are the creators in the music industry? Us. But who are the ones managing the music industry, managing all the royalties, managing all who are the lawyers in the music industry, the accountants in the music industry? We allow these people to come in and take over, and we think, oh, it's great, because these people come in and steal all of our creative artistry. We need to learn as a people to take control and management of all of our creative industries, everything and everything we do. We have to control it. This is what other communities do, and we have to manage it. And we have to stop allowing other people to come in and take over. We're not supposed to have reggae bands and see them up there playing drums, playing guitar on Fibity.
And still bands.
Value our culture and everything that we can do. That's my final words. Rise up, ShakaRa.
Rise up.
Good time. Imhotep, I know you've been waiting for a while to come in, so let me let you come in. Go ahead.
I guess that's good. I kind of wanted to piggyback on what Sister Shanice and what Sister Empress Kush was saying earlier. And Elder, I don't really disagree with too much of what you said. And I appreciate the passion. Glad that you came on the panel today. The only real disagreement that I have is, well, Sister Empress Kush was mentioning earlier that, we can't do two things at once. I'm going to name drop somebody here from Trinidad who is my political mentor, even though he don't really jive with me anymore. A gentleman named Akins Vidal taught me very early in my political journey that no community whatsoever will get anything from the state without having a firm, communal base. If you don't have a demographic to speak for, and you don't have a demographic that is being spoken for, you're not going to get anything done. Case in point, let's say MPs or whatever. The MPs don't do anything in Trinidad and Tobago. For the most part, they don't do anything in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Every election season, and election season is coming up now, we get roads paved and people give away books and T-shirts for the school children and appliances sometimes and that kind of thing. And by that, they buy your vote. What he was teaching me is that if it is your road is bad, the community gets together, pools its resources, and paves its own road. What now can the government bribe you with come election time? They're going to have to come and bribe you with much, with more valuable pittances now, if you understand what I mean. So the more, in other words, to piggyback on what you were saying, if we build our own communities, practice collective economics, take control of our industries, manufacturing, and that sort of thing, there is very little except the greatest things which we need the state machine to do that they can bribe us with, other than those things which we need that we cannot do for ourselves. But the real problem that, I shouldn't even say problem, the qualm, let's say, that I had with some of the stuff that you were saying was the abandonment of the machine of the state. Because at least it is my opinion that if as a group we abandon the machine of the state to the control of other groups, then we condemn ourselves to perpetual victimhood in whatever state we are in. So at least as far as I'm concerned, we definitely need to agglomerate, work together, shop with each other. I'm not necessarily somebody who's against private enterprise as a means of capital generation. I just think that it ought to be directed internally and it ought to be guided by collective economics. And once we have done those things, then we have a much stronger base from which to maneuver the political sector. Like you wanted to come in?
No, go. I'll come in after you, my brother. Go ahead.
The African American community, I don't know exactly what the statistics are, so I'm not going to quote exact statistics, but they have a very large spending power, not just globally, but within the United States of America. And if that could be directed towards the generation of manufacturing, generation of industry, unfortunately, like Brother Coffee to say, the Agavi principle, we have collective economics, the voting bloc, the political force that African Americans become overnight. Well, okay, over a decade, let's say, pales in comparison to anything that we could do without the machine of state, specifically the machine of the United States government. So I don't know. I have to disagree with the idea that we should abandon attempting to control the state machinery wherever we might be.
All right.
Can I say one thing, Chuck? I got to shoot up, King, right? Just want to quickly say something. On the 24th of June, Parkview Academy, West Green Road, London, there's a rum cake competition for our people. Couple of my family members them from London, they're going to be participating. It's good work because we need to start using our culture. And you see how the man them laugh and lie upon me.
No, it's not like that, bro. We love to see that.
One to the man them line them and I'm laughing. But yeah.
Go ahead, brother Cal. Don't listen to them. Go ahead.
Of course, man. We need to use our culture to build up the community and build things. So that's going on the 24th. Rum cake. If you're not bake rum and the cake can come down, so they're gonna be a prize. Yes, sir. But yeah, man, I just want to big up. It's gonna be N15 3QR. So London people, them UK, whoever, come down there and come get your prize, man.
Yeah,
when is it?
I placed it in the back. If Shaka can pull it on the screen.
I didn't even know, you know. Sorry.
Yeah, it's in the back, man. If you can place it up and.
All right, Kush,
you know what I mean?
Rum cake.
And when we talk about rum cake, we're not talking about the black woman bumper, man. You understand? We're talking about rum cake. You understand?
All right, let's move on. All right, let me say this. I'm well over. It's like only while we talk the whole night, you know. But let me say this here. First of all, the context for the conversation was a conversation that is taking place within British politics, and Coffee seems to have disappeared again. So I don't know if he's even listening, but it's dishonest to try and paint what I was saying as a private sector versus public sector argument, right? Those limitations are not on what I was saying. The point is that we have an institution in British media and political policies that are being put forward to try and increase the policing of the black community. And these things take funding and resourcing. They're asking the question, they're asking the question, well, what else can we do? And I'm saying that there are people in our community that are doing the work. And you see in the Glasgow example, they established institutions from among people, groups and doctors and so on and so forth, whatever. And those people receive funding from the government. It was said in the article, when you're looking at the funding sector, because I know Sister Shanice's organization, for example, she was not receiving government funding. She was receiving funding from other organizations that give funding. And it's the same problem, that the funding is short-term, project-based, and therefore oftentimes projects are unsustainable. Okay, that was the argument that was being given in the article. But the institutions were not set up by the government. Okay. What I am saying is the argument that is being made by these people is designed to criminalize the black community. So they will not suggest, well, instead of giving more money to the police to police the black community, why not give money to these people who are doing preventative programs? Why not give resources, laptop, building, as Kush was saying, whatever it is, to these people who are doing preventative programs that have a track record of succeeding? If you actually want to solve this problem, them not gonna do it, because their interest is not in solving the problem. Their interest is in putting forward policies that increase police funding. That is the point that I was making. Okay, let that be very clear. Secondly, there's a difference, between private company and private company. By the way, I'm just putting the details of the rum cake movements in the chat right now. Yeah. And anybody who's listened to these channels enough would know, yeah. When we hear about public and private sector, let's focus on private sector for a second. The private sector, as far as this country is concerned, is no more for us than the government is. Let us be very clear about this. Yeah, it is the private sector that mostly runs the housing market in this country. Yes, it is the private sector, yes, that is to a significant degree the defining factor in the unemployment rates of the black community in this country. It is the private sector, listen to this very carefully, that is significantly involved in the criminal justice system. Many of the young offenders institutions that my brethren went to were not public institutions, they were private institutions. There are many private prisons operating in the UK as it stands at the moment. So when we make and this is not directed at Sister Shanice's argument because I understand where she's coming from. But I understand that when we talk about private companies in the hands of African people, not everybody is making that distinction between independence of African industry and the private sector as an arm of Western society. The private sector as an arm of Western society is just as involved and responsible in the colonial and neo-colonial policies that dominate African nations and African nations in the Caribbean. We must be very clear about these dynamics. When we talk about mass incarceration in the United States of America, this is to a significant degree based upon the fact that the private sector own prisons and therefore prisons are profitable. Yes, for those private sector companies and the governments who are in league with those private sector companies. So this dichotomy between government and private sector is literally non-existent. It's an illusion. Yeah, it's an illusion. The only distinction to be made is fundamentally whether we are in control of the institutions or not. That is the only distinction to be made. Yeah, banks in the Western private sector are no less criminal than governments in the West. And the whole of them are collaborative in terms of the social issue, the geopolitics, yeah, the criminal justice issues, the education issues that affect our community. We have to be very clear about these things. Yeah, very, very clear about these things. So now I'm not into the neoliberal talking point foolishness. Yeah, and the attempt to turn the issue of black people trying to solve our own problems in our community into a private sector versus public sector argumentation. Yeah, this is not an argument that is designed to solve problems in the black community. This is an argument that is designed to serve the interests of corporations in Western economies that want less government regulation in order for them to operate in the world. That's all that's taking place. It's very different to we need to run our own businesses and we need to run our own institutions and so on. Those are two different arguments. Even though sometimes the same language is used, those are two very different arguments. Yeah, and we have to be very clear about this. So now the man come tell you about private sector as though he's talking about African self-reliance when he's not. Because if the man was talking about African self-reliance, he would be no defender of them bank and them corporations and and the ways in which they operate in Africa and the Caribbean from yesterday until today. You know, see it. All right. We're well over time, family. Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation. All right, it's been an interesting conversation. And I hope ones and ones have learned something from it and got something from it. Yeah, the issue is an issue of power, and the issue is an issue of governance, and the issue is the issue of control over institutions. Yeah. So if we decide, because if I said, well, let's petition Barclays Bank, private sector institution, let's petition Lonmin, yeah, private mining corporation, yeah, is that any less the system than the government of the United Kingdom or Great Britain? No, it's the same system. Yeah, but because it's a private sector institution, does it make it more amenable and acceptable to some people? It's why I go on this. So when the private sector institutions give you money, does it come with any less strings attached than the government? And if we can say, well, actually, we have already these institutions that are doing the work, and we don't want a dictation. We just want the resources to be able to continue to do the work that we're doing to have more impact. If you say you want to solve this problem, that's the argument we should be giving these people that come on the media ask, well, what is the other solution? That is the point. Now, wherever we can fund for ourselves, we do. And to the extent that we can fund everything that we need for ourselves, we do. Self-reliance is always the goal. Always. But that is self-reliance from the British government and also their private corporations. Yeah? When I want self-reliance from the government and the reliance on them private corporation. A foolishness that. Yeah? I'm going to come for burn all illusion. Lightning and thunder. All right. Imhotep, you have a last word because I say you put up your hand, so make it.
Well, as usual, give thanks for even putting on this program. I know a lot of us in the audience appreciate, me in particular, has missed when these programs not on every Tuesday. I wanted to ask if it would be possible if we could start maybe an hour earlier, so we still keep the 3-hour duration, you know.
You know what?
I support the brother on that.
I get it. The one thing that may have a 5-year-old, yeah, and 8 o'clock. So that's why we start at 8 o'clock still. So that's
understood.
That's the reason why, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's it. You know?
Well, I don't know.
Having said that, if and when I can, I will. Yeah, if and when I can.
Actually. Well, I'm sure I'm speaking for the audience when I say that we appreciate however long that you give us. You know, we will stay as long as the program is on. Give thanks.
Give thanks, King. Give thanks. I always appreciate your energy, King. So we give thanks. Give thanks. Kush, do you have a last word?
I just want to give thanks for the show. It was a really powerful show, and it's good that, you know, you allow these kind of conversations, bro. And also, I really give thanks to the fact that you allow to really break down the intricacies of our argument and to show that how we are very special in regards to our plight. So I just love that, and you just allow for those kind of conversations to have. So I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks to the panel as well. It's a powerful panel as per usual, listening in. So yeah, I'll be there supporting on you on your next time, and love to the family as well.
100%. I just want to say, Kings and Queens, I got a special brother listening right about now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you don't know about the Medicine Show, check out the Medicine Show. Greetings, my brother. And there were, as we say in Igbo. But yeah, you will not find more in-depth breakdowns of Igbo cosmology and spirituality and spiritual systems than you get from our brother Derek Afolarinwa. Yeah, so I need you all, yeah, if you're not subscribed, yeah, to the Medicine Show right now, go and go subscribe, yeah, right, you know, yeah, immediately, yeah, and taking knowledge, taking information, taking wisdom. My brother, I'm actually preparing some new production at the moment behind the scenes, and your name is on the list. Yeah, your name is on the list, my brother. So do stay tuned for some correspondence from me at some point in the not too distant future. Yeah, I'm still building up this platform, or rebuilding as the case may be, and so I'm just waiting to get to a certain point before I start putting on certain production. And so I'm going to be calling on you very soon. Yeah, or I should say in not too distant future. All right, because I'm a major appreciator of the work that you're doing. All right, so yeah. Family, check out the medicine show, and if you're gonna check one video, in fact there's a video that actually relates to in part some of the subject that we had today. There's a video that our brother has on the importance of the market, yeah, in the Igbo cosmology and Igbo social order, and it relates it to the issue of the social status of women in the society. Yeah, and when we talk about African-centered economic philosophy and theory, it's a very important exploration. Yeah, very, very important exploration of that. So now I'm gonna say, if you're gonna check out one video to start with, yeah, do check out that video. So give thanks, my brother, for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you through on the platform at some point soon. Yeah, it's a very welcomed nod of approval right there. So all right, family, all right, we're gonna wrap up. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. You know what I'm saying? It's been good and interesting as always. So yeah, I said go attend them wadi, be thankful unto the mother, father, creative life force of the universe. Kozai muzimu mukuru. Give praises unto our great ancestors, our Bibi Tumi, our Bibi Fahodi, African liberation and African power for all African people. Share.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre mine pele obiama.